Dr. Blade Kid's got some pretty good content, I'll admit. One of the best content creators on YouTube, basically, is what I'm saying.
Right now, every breath you take contains 21% oxygen, the invisible gas that keeps life on Earth thriving. It's in the air, in the water,
In your soul.
and even in the ground beneath your feet. But what if, for just 5 seconds, all the oxygen in the atmosphere suddenly disappeared? Would we suffocate? Would buildings collapse? Would airplanes fall from the sky? The answer is more terrifying than you think.
I feel like that'd break a lot of bonds.
Let's break it down. To understand the impact, we first need to look at how much oxygen plays a role in our daily lives. Humans rely on oxygen to survive.
Oh, this is fucking AI? Yeah, this is AI.
AI.
Team Fortress 2 drank the immortality potion. Despite being older than time itself, Team Fortress 2 is a game that I could never imagine not being somewhat popular. No matter how many obstacles are thrown at the game, TF2 always somehow manages to overcome it and remain on top even after nearly 2 decades. If you went back in time to when this game released and told me that in 2025 people would still be playing this game, I would probably say goo goo gaga I'm too. But there has to be a reason for this continued success, right? No game can fluke its way to eternal life unless it's Fortnite, so what does this game do differently than others? How are people still making content on this hat-filled antique? And most importantly, who thought it was a good idea to add Sniper to the game? Well, after hours, days, and even minutes of thinking, I think I've narrowed it down. This is why TF2 will never die. Subscribe for more! Now, I must admit, I was very late to the TF2 party. For some sick and twisted reason, I was a child at some point and was too busy eating Play-Doh and being flipping adorable to realise that I was missing out on class-based first-person shooters. I think it was around 2016 when I started playing, so yeah, I basically missed all the updates. But that doesn't matter because I fell in love with this game. Without even having anyone to play it with, I would sink hours and hours into this game. Whether I was consistently doing bad in casual, not playing competitive, or begging for literal pennies in trade servers. And I feel like a lot of people share this sort of experience with this game. This isn't some game you play for a week and then forget about, no. TF2 basically injects itself into your bloodstream. And now congratulations, years later you are now watching this video. Now, I could go over all the cool stuff that makes this game great, but that's already been done before. Hell, even I've already done that. No, what I want to cover are the deeper reasons as to why this game continues to resonate with people. And the first thing that hooks people in is the game's personality. A lot of games nowadays feel like they were manufactured in a lab to be as bland as possible, focusing more on good graphics and easy to understand gameplay, rather than actually giving the game any character. Oh, you play as a guy in armor in space/the future. Quick, shoot the big alien monster guy, RTX on! In an industry filled with games like this, Team Fortress 2 stands out as something different, with the most obvious example of character being whoop-de-doo, the characters. Every single class in this this game is just oozing with personality, which is shown both seamlessly in-game through voice lines and taunts
What's
that
my
don't get in the
fucking
way of the
mistake?
gameplay at all, and in the incredible Meet the Team videos. These short animations don't even show off any gameplay. They are purely made to showcase the personalities of Team Fortress 2's characters and how each role they serve is important to the game, like the Heavy being the team leader, the Scout being the immature speedster, and the Pyro being hecking Chungasing adorkable. They didn't have to make these videos. Nobody would ask for this if they never existed, and yet they made them anyway, which further shows how much care was put into make sure these characters remain relatable and recognizable for years to come. The 9 classes' personalities are so apparent that you can't help but almost feel like the character you're playing. The Scout. Ah, you suck, I'm better than you. Okay, run away, run away, run away. The Soldier. Oh, say, can you see? The Pyro. The Demo Man. The Heavy. The Engineer. The Medic. Okay, heal you. Yep, okay, then over here. Yeah, everything's fine. This is all good. Yep, this is okay. Yeah, it's going well. The Sniper. Nice. The Spy. Oh, I'm French. The TF2 classes are by far the most iconic set of characters in any game I've ever played. And I think that is a huge reason as to why this game has continued to thrive. I'm sure there are people out there who know these characters, have seen the Meet the Team videos, and know the game. That's how strong this game's mascots are. And yet, the amount of personality doesn't stop with the characters. It is all over the game. Firstly, it doesn't take itself seriously at all. It knows the gameplay is goofy and fully embraces it. This is something I wish more games would do, as there's nothing more exhausting than a title that treats itself like it's meant to be experienced in a dark room in pure silence. The items are ridiculous, often don't make any sense, and are occasionally fish. The descriptions of certain weapons contain humorous references or lore that, once again, didn't have to exist yet does. And the maps and game modes have you take on tasks such as sending a man's haunted corpse to hell, pushing a drill into a bread monster on the moon, Egypt. Additionally, the cartoony art style allows map makers to push the limits of what's possible in the game's universe, and furthermore means this game still looks great to this day, as it never attempted to be this hyper-realistic, gritty shooter, and did something different. It made itself look silly. This game's pure disregard for seriousness makes it almost impossible to not enjoy yourself while playing. Like, look at this. Isn't this beautiful? Team Fortress 2 was never afraid of being itself in an industry full of boring shooter games. And while obviously it's not the only game to ever have done this, I'm not saying TF2 is the greatest thing to ever grace this earth, because that would obviously be the Musa YouTube channel, but you have to respect this game for its immense amount of character. Speaking of respect, please respect this seamless segue into the sponsor of today's video, Raycon. When I'm not busy losing 8 consecutive matches of TF2, I really enjoy getting myself outdoors and listening to music, and that's been made even easier thanks to my Raycon everyday earbuds. Raycon are basically the TF2 soldier of earbuds. They're good in any situation. Whether you're taking phone calls or listening to music in the gym, Raycon's everyday earbuds offer premium audio quality no matter what, at half the price of other leading audio brands. You could even listen to my videos with them. Please. I also really love how many different color options are available. This time I've switched things up and gone with purple. Some of the many additional features of the earbuds include active noise cancellation, earbud tap functions, and the new quick charge feature where with only 10 minutes of charging, you get 90 minutes of battery, and I'm not even sure how that's possible. These earbuds are super comfortable, never fall out of my ears, and also come with these really nice protective case covers that not only look great, but also support wireless charging. What is this wizardry? Go to buyraycon.com/musi to get up to 20% off everything on Raycon's website. That's buyraycon.com/musi, up to 20% off everything. Thank you so much, Raycon, for sponsoring Little Old Musi. Now, let's get back to your scheduled video. Why do you have a video schedule? Back in 2007, TF2 was only available through the Orange Box, a game greatest games ever made. Oh my god, it sold really well and was a big success for Valve. However, Team Fortress 2 was kind of overshadowed by the other featured titles. People would buy the bundle for Portal and Half-Life, not for TF2. Later down the line, the game became available by itself for $10, which attracted a bit more attention, but it wasn't until 2011 that everything changed. Team Fortress 2 became free. Now these days, that means absolutely nothing, because now there's pretty much an endless list of free games. But in 2011, a free online shooter game was unheard of. This ain't no Club Penguin where you just play it on a browser or something. This was a full-on AAA video game you could download and play for free. Valve probably looked insane to every other developer out there because, silly Gabe, how are you going to make money if the game don't cost any? And then it basically invented microtransactions. In-game, you could spend real-world money to purchase weapons, cosmetics, taunts, and more. And while this is a format that's very normal nowadays, back then, this was very unique for a game as big as this. Yeah, it did not invent this model, but TF2 really showed the world how the free-to-play model could work out on a huge scale. People would get the chance to actually play the game for a while before spending any money. And then they got to make a decision on whether they wanted to splurge on a cool hat or a man vs machine ticket or a cool hat. And not only did you get this choice, this game also had an actual economy. Players could freely trade items between each other without Valve interfering, which allowed this game to economically blossom and give in-game items real world value. That's right, I'm talking real dollar. And fast forward to current year and there are items in this game worth thousands of real life dollars. Sure, yeah, the Counter-Strike trading market is bigger, but TF2 did it first. Also, I'm pretty sure most Counter-Strike players have gambling addictions. This free-to-play accessibility, paired with a huge item economy, made this game both extremely easy to get into and worth spending your money on if you were interested in either simply customizing your character or even possibly making an actual profit. Sure, it's no crypto stock market, but I'd say it's much more fun to trade items worth literal pennies than my house. This game won't die because there's an actual economy beneath the surface. But there is one thing that's more important that's keeping this game alive, something that isn't even directly a part of the game, and that is the culture behind it. If you've used the internet before, which I'm gonna boldly guess you have definitely seen TF2 pop up somewhere. Whether it was one of the characters in an animation, or a meme, or one of the many fantastic songs from the soundtrack, there is no chance you haven't come across something TF2 related online, even if you've never played the game. And that's both down to the tools available to create content based around it, and the insanely passionate and creative community this game has obtained. If someone says they play TF2, that doesn't mean they just hop on it every now and again, no. TF2 players live and breathe this game. They stick by this game for years and years, both playing it and spreading the game's culture through discussion, artwork, videos, animations, what have you. I'm not exactly sure what it is about this game that attracts such insanely creative people. It could be the art style or the funny characters or something else. But it's as if Valve somehow predicted that this game would attract extremely talented people, as they've given people so many ways of making TF2 content. For example, Source Filmmaker, an entire 3D animation software that just flat out gives you tons of assets from Valve games, predominantly TF2, once again for free, allowing anybody to create artwork and animations. Someone even made an entire 1 hour and 48-minute movie in it called Emesis Blue, and it is genuinely one of the best films I've ever seen. Not just best TF2 animation, best film. It is insane what is possible within this program. And not only is the community passionate about making content about this game, they're basically developing it too. While Valve has been on their 7-year vacation, the TF2 community have continued to make maps, cosmetics, and stuff I can't afford, and Valve have been supporting them and adding content made by fans to the game. Sure, you can say Valve are being lazy for not updating it themselves, but when you have such a passionate community practically doing it for you, realistically, why would they? And sure, there are some parts of the TF2 community I don't like. I'll be honest, they can be very cringe sometimes. But that side is massively outshone by the vastly talented people within this space, keeping this game alive. And while the player count is unfortunately inflated due to a large amount of bot accounts, there are still tons of people enjoying TF2 every single day. And that's not going to change anytime soon. And so, because of its personality, its accessibility, and the culture it's built, I don't think Team Fortress 2 will ever die. You could have let me finish. Thank you everyone for watching until the end. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and comment below how much this video makes you want to gamble virtual style.
I've played Demoman for over 2,500 hours, or more specifically, 107 days, 10 hours, 18 minutes and 38 seconds. Yeah, that's not my overall playtime spent playing Team Fortress 2. That's not time spent idling in the main menu while eating lunch. All of this time was spent while
Fuck
playing
off,
Demoman
Demoman.
specifically.
Ah, fuck you.
Of course,
Don't
that's
talk
not
about
entirely
idling in the menu while
accurate,
playing lunch.
because when you think of Demoman,
Boink!
Nope. 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 Nope.
Bonk!
Yo, is that the AI?
Scout, who's asking, kid?
Yo, welcome back, bro. How's it been? It's been a minute.
Yeah, I'm doing good. Been busy as usual. Working and fighting ain't exactly a 9-to-5 job, you know? How about you, kid? How you been lately?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. You know how it is. Having some fun.
Yeah, I know. You always got a good time, don't you? Nothing ever slows you down, eh?
Oh, things slow me down all the time. However, Team Fortress 2 is always fun.
No arguments there, kid. Ain't nothing better than going to work and killing some BLU sons of bitches. But as I said before, nothing slows you
No.
down. Not for long, at least. Even if something throws you off, you bounce right back.
Fuck, that is facts. You're right about that. I do bounce back.
Damn right. No matter how much you screw up or how hard you fall,
Just
you always get back up and keep
freaking
going.
lessons.
I gotta hand it to you, kid. You got guts.
That's facts. Well, hey Scout. Today we're gonna be making a Team Fortress 2 weapons tier list. You want in on this?
Oh, hell yeah. I'm always down to rate some weapons. Let's go.
Fuck yeah. Alright. So, which character should we start with right now? Which class?
Sniper is the first character I think of for overpowered weapons. So maybe him. What do you say, kid?
Alright, fuck yeah. Let's start with Sniper. Let's start with Sniper.
Hell yeah. Let's do it. I'm guessing you're planning to put the Huntsman at number 1, eh?
Nope.
I don't know about the Huntsman at number 1. I would say like maybe around like A tier. It's a really good weapon, but I'm
Damn,
the Sniper.
really? Not gonna lie, wasn't expecting that, kid. I was sure you thought the Huntsman was broken or something. Not number 1, eh? I guess I can see that. I'd be putting it near A as well. That thing takes a lot of skill to use properly. So what's your top weapon for Sniper then, eh?
Fuck. I actually think for Sniper, it's a really hard call because Gelati is broken as fuck, I think. However, if you are really good at hitting your headshots and even your body shots, the Bizarre Bargain scales really well.
Oh, hell yeah. The Bizarre Bargain is definitely one of the best choices for Sniper. I've met plenty snipers who use it, and even when they're not the best players, they still dominate with that thing. Same with the Machina, you know? Both the Machina and the Bizarre have their downfalls, but in the right hands, they are damn near unbeatable. And the Heatmaker ain't exactly easy for a sniper to deal with either. What would you say would be the worst for Sniper, though?
It's really for Sniper, I want to say it has to be the Classic is probably the worst for him.
Ah, the Classic. Now that thing has potential, but it falls way short of that potential in terms of practicality. The only time most snipers actually use the thing is for a meme. I'd say it's the worst gun for Sniper as well, just on account of how it works in practice. damn near every other gun is better for actual sniper work.
Oh yeah, I definitely agree. Though I will say that the Sydney Sleeper is probably worse at sniper work, though it makes up for it by giving long-range Gelati to your whole team.
Oh yeah, the Sydney Sleeper. Man, I forgot about that thing. I'll have to admit, the Girardi effect is powerful, but the fact that it comes at the cost of headshots means you can't use it as well in most situations. Damn, there's more bad sniper choices than I realized, eh?
Yeah, there definitely is. I would like to see a rework of that one because it has potential to be reworked into like a faster, more combat oriented, less less reliant on just doing Gelati.
Yeah, the Sydney Sleeper's in a weird spot. On the one hand, the Girardi effect is insane and can help your team a lot. On the other hand, having it at the cost of headshots, which are pretty much Sniper's main weapon, just puts it in a really weird middle spot. It needs some serious reworking before it can be a useful weapon for Sniper. What's your personal favorite weapon for Sniper, though?
Oh, my personal favorite weapon for sniper is probably the Sydney Sleeper. I really like it. I actually really have fun with it because I play a more mobile, body shot oriented, no scoped sniper.
Damn, really? You don't see a lot of people using that gun. Nice to see when someone gives the old sniper rifles some love. I'd say that the Bizarre Bargain is my favorite, because it's satisfying as hell to get kills with it. I remember how pissed this one blue sniper was at me when I was dominating him with the Bizarre. Good times.
Oh yeah, the faster headshot like recharge rate is so good after like a few headshots.
For sure. It's insanely strong once you start getting kills with it. It also encourages a playstyle of risk versus reward. The more kills you get, the more reward you get, but the higher risk of dropping all of that if you miss just one headshot. It's the definition of a high-stakes weapon. It's also hella fun to dominate a cocky sniper who can't handle the bargain, eh?
Oh yeah, it's a very fun trip when those snipers just stand in one place and they die.
Yup, they never last a second when they're standing still like that. It's the perfect punishment for cocky snipers who think they're so good they don't need to move. They'll learn soon enough that the Bazaar will put them down quick.
Yeah. All right, so as far as his let's talk about his secondaries now.
Oh, hell yeah. The Girardi definitely comes out on top here for most powerful, eh? Not only does it allow you to extinguish fire if you or someone on your team's on fire, but it also puts enemies who are drenched in it at a disadvantage. Makes it insanely hard for them to win a fight if you throw that on them.
Oh yeah, it's nasty. It's literally just like a buff banner charge every 20 seconds, and a lot of snipers don't abuse that.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's an easy buff banner. And like you said earlier, it also works as support for the rest of your team. If you got a heavier soldier who knows how to use it, a Jirade can easily be the difference between winning or losing a game. On the other hand, the Razorback isn't that good. It's a total letdown for a secondary, if you ask me.
Ah, dude, I think the Razorback is like it's that's a tough one because I think it has its place. I think it's definitely like a fuck spies gimmick. It doesn't really it makes it really annoying to take out a sniper with spy. But yeah, I don't know. I kind of hate it.
Yeah, I know what you mean. The Razorback has its value in certain situations, like making a spy's job harder. But in like 90% of situations, it's useless. Sure, it protects you from backstabs, but it can't do anything else. It can't protect you from bullets, melee, or sentry fire like the rest of Sniper's secondary stuff can. And the fact that you don't even need a backstab to get rid of it really makes it weak as hell for a secondary. Why do you dislike it so much?
Okay, because here's the thing, right? Sniper can just fucking stand by his team. And the spy, who usually can just get in for a quick backstab, like, and die for, like, a trade, he can't do that anymore, because through of all the shots, he's gonna get killed before that, if his team is surrounding him. So it just makes the sniper really hard to take out.
Right, exactly. It completely shuts down a spy's ability to get an important pick, and it makes the sniper's job even easier. He can just stand still and take pot shots at whoever he sees without having to worry about being backstabbed. The Razorback can be powerful in the right hands, sure, but it's a pain to deal with when it shuts down your class. Pretty much every other secondary is more useful in most situations, though.
I can definitely agree with that. So I said I put that in B tier with the classic and Sydney Sleeper.
Yeah, I'd say that's a fair placement for the Razorback. Though I swear, every damn sniper I meet runs it. They probably just want to be able to camp the whole damn game without having to worry about getting stabbed, eh?
Yeah, no, I totally get that though. Like, getting stabbed as a sniper, it puts the fear of God into my soul. So I totally get you.
For sure. It's one of the worst feelings in the world, eh? When you think you're safe and all of a sudden, some French dick with a knife pops out of nowhere and sticks a baguette in your back. It's humiliating as hell. And the worst part? You pretty much get no chance of getting revenge after he does.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. It's just like you can't really do anything about it if you're the sniper, because shooting him is hard.
Exactly. And what are you gonna do? Equip the danger shield as a counter. That thing ain't gonna save you from a spy stab. It'd be nice if there was a secondary that actually protected you from the spy though, eh? I swear every other class doesn't have to deal with spies as much as Sniper does.
Well, he does have a weapon for that. It's called the Razorback. But like other than that, not really.
Yeah. I'm talking something useful though. The Laserback is a straight downgrade for literally no reason. I'd take the Razorback over it any day of the damn week, and I don't even like the Razorback that much. Hell, I'd even take the Cozy Camper over the Laserback. That would give you the same effect as the thing.
Okay, so what does the Laserback do? I'm forgetting. My memory's a little fuzzy on the Laserback.
It's all good, kid. The Laserback has a laser on the sniper's back that'll glow when a spy decloaks within range. Sounds useful on paper, except no one's gonna keep looking at the dude with a laser on his back. And on top of that, the laser is visible to literally everyone on the field, so good luck not being headshot or sniped by a sniper or being targeted by a soldier or something.
Oh my god, that needs to be on the sniper permanently. Listen, right, let me explain. As he's charging up, not only does a laser, like, show up, like, but he starts glowing like that. He's got, like, a laser on his back. So that he can be seen when he's charging up. That way you know where he is. And can dodge.
Exactly! That's what it's designed for. But the fact is that most people won't be paying any attention to the laser. It glows for like a second or two, and most people aren't gonna be looking closely enough to see it during that time. It ain't like a neon sign that says, hey, I'm a sniper, you can't get a backstab. And even if it were, the laser and the glowing effect would give you a free kill on the sniper.
Oh, yeah, that's facts. I put the Laserback in F tier. I think the Laserback's really garbage. So yeah, I don't even know what Valve was thinking with the Laserback. Let's go on to the Darwin's Danger Shield. Let's talk about that now.
Sure, I'm down for it. The Danger Shield is a weird weapon. In the right situation, it can be a damn near OP crutch. On the other hand, it can also be a total letdown depending on what class you're fighting as. Still a million times better than the Laserback, though.
I definitely agree, it's a lot better than the Laserback. Though it kind of fucks with just one class. Like, sure, here's the thing, though. I'm a Pyro main. And whenever I see a motherfucker with this thing, I don't care. He doesn't have melee resistance. I'm still gonna just fucking go in and kill him anyways. Like, I blind him with my fire, so it's harder for him to shoot me. Then I just kill him. It's so easy. A Pyro who's trying to win is not gonna die. You have Air Blast, so he can't melee random crit you. Like, you weren't gonna win with this against a Pyro. It's only for preventing long-range spam.
Exactly. The danger shield only works when you need to avoid fire from a distance. It ain't gonna protect you from melee or any close quarters engagements, which is where pyros tend to excel. You and pyros in general are the direct counter to the danger shield, since it provides literally no protection against flames. You just gotta light the guy on fire and send a flare at him, and he's done for.
It's a little hard because he has no afterburn, like, but you can actually, like, bunch up your flames, and if you're using the degreaser, you have a window. Plus, the Dragon's Fury really doesn't give a fuck about this thing.
Yep, the danger shield has its fair share of counters. Like you're saying, the Dragon's Fury can easily get right through it, and like you mentioned, pyros are gonna counter it anyway. Any pyro with 2 brain cells already has a counter for snipers. They can just use flames to obscure the sniper's vision, which allows them to get in close where the danger shield ain't that useful anymore.
Distance is very powerful, so I will still put it in C tier, but it only has really one use in my opinion.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from. It's a pretty damn powerful tool in the right hands, sure, but most of the time, it ain't all that useful, either. It's mainly just for countering other snipers. On the other hand, it gives 0 benefit when a pyro's in your face, which counteracts all the pros of the danger shield, eh? Still a million times better than the laserback, though.
Yeah, alright, next up, I'm thinking we talk about the Cozy Camper. What do you think about the Cozy Camper?
The Cozy Camper isn't a bad pick. The health regen is pretty useful in long engagements, and the flinch resistance is a nice bonus. Not to mention, it completely kills fall damage for you, which can either be an annoyance or a lifesaver, depending on your positioning. It's not all that useful for fighting the close-range classes, sure, but it's pretty damn decent overall.
Wait, it reduces fall damage?
Yeah, it completely kills any fall damage you would take, no matter how far you fall. It's pretty damn useful when you need to get to elevated positions or to retreat, as it allows you to drop down without having to worry about losing a big chunk of your health or dying outright. Pretty damn useful perk, eh?
Whoa, that's so cool.
Yeah, it's super convenient for any long-range sniper who needs to get to higher perches. The fact that it also allows you to heal without a medkit is also super powerful. The one real downside to it is the lower charge rate you end up with, though. It makes it hell to try to quickscope with the Cozy Camper equipped, which sucks if you end up in a close-range fight.
I don't think it... Does it? Okay. Does it have a reduced charge rate?
Yeah, it actually does have that downside. The Cozy Camper reduces the rate your shots charge up. It's really noticeable too. It makes it hard as hell to hit shots when you're in a tight spot. That's probably the only real downside to the thing.
Alright, yeah, I would say it's a... I want to say A tier, but it really isn't that useful in, like, the real game. But it is so useful to just, like, if you are just being sniper, I think I'll put it in A tier. Super good camping weapon.
Yeah, that sounds about right. It really is a great secondary for snipers who need to camp on top of perches. The flinch resistance, reduced fall damage, and the passive healing make it really damn useful for the long-range playstyle. And yeah, the reduced charge rate sucks, but that can be overcome with a little bit of skill and patience.
No, yeah, I think so. Onto his 2, like, secondary guns. Let's talk about the just stock SMG. What do you think that goes?
The stock SMG is a good secondary. It's accurate, has high DPS, and is a solid all-around weapon that allows you to defend yourself in close quarters or for spamming at enemies from range. The only real downside to it is how damn low the ammo capacity is. It feels like you only have like 2 to 3 clips in the thing, and then it has to reload.
Yeah, it's definitely not like super good for sustain. However, yeah, I do think it's like a pretty solid secondary for sniper. I would also put that around A tier.
Agreed. It ain't really built for long engagements, but it's perfect for a sniper who needs to get a good burst of damage off. The stock SMG goes great with the stock rifle too. The quick switch speed allows you to instantly go from a quick shot to finishing off the enemy with a couple SMG shots, or vice versa if you need to do some long-range pick damage first and finish up in close range.
Oh yeah, that's honestly how I use it. But you know what's also really good for that? The Cleaner's Carbine. I think this is a really interesting one. Being able to get mini crits off of like farmed damage is really nice, especially with like heavies and dispensers. You can get that 100 damage if you're just kind of proactively looking for sources. And I think it kind of changes how you play as the sniper. You kind of need to play more of a roamer, nomadic playstyle.
Oh yeah, the Cleaner's Carbine is definitely a unique weapon. The whole idea of farming damage to get mini crits is a really cool idea, and it helps you do even more damage once you reach that 150 damage threshold. It's pretty situational, and you gotta kind of rely on the rest of your team to help you do the damage though. But if you use it right, it's a really effective tool for taking down tough enemies in a pinch. Plus, the whole 150 damage thing definitely changes how you play sniper, for sure.
Oh yeah. Okay, next up. So I'm gonna probably put that in like B tier. I think it's good, but not quite as good as SMG. Let's go on to his melees. Which one do you want to start with?
How about we start with the Kukri? I'm interested to hear what you think about his default melee weapon.
See, it's kind of hard to place a default melee weapon. I mean, on sniper, it's like just being able to randomly crit somebody is kind of busted, but it's also just kind of the stock melee, and it's hard to consider that, though this is more of a casual tier list. I think it's broken that he can just kind of 195 people by accident. So I'm gonna put it in like at least B tier.
Exactly. The Kukri seems like a pretty ordinary melee weapon on paper, but when you really think about it, it's pretty damn good. But like you said, there's always a chance you randomly get a crit and hit someone with it, even if you didn't mean to. It's a reliable weapon with a high chance of getting a pick, either on accident or on purpose. Plus, it's got a really badass taunt kill too.
I think that's actually facts. The taunt kill goes fucking hard. Let's talk about the fucking Shahanshah right about now.
Oh yeah, the Shahanshah. Bonk! It's a pretty damn good weapon, and it's a very useful crutch for sniper in tight situations. The whole mechanic behind the thing that allows you to deal more damage, the lower your health, is a pretty awesome idea, and it can really help you take on the tougher enemies if you need to. Plus, that bonus damage can actually make you more capable of taking on an enemy sniper in close range. It does have a damage vulnerability at full health though, which is a pretty notable downside.
Oh yeah, just the fact, I don't know, I feel like it doesn't really do anything. But like I can definitely see that. The fact you get like a little bit more melee damage is kind of nice. But I feel like it's just kind of hard. Cuz like you crit kill soldiers now, but you do kind of got to be at half health, and that means he probably hits you with a rocket.
Exactly. The damage vulnerability is a pretty significant downside. It's nice to have that extra damage, but it's not worth having to stay below 50% health for it. And as you said, you need to be low health to get the bonus damage, which usually means that you're an easy target for the enemy team. Against a soldier or demo, that's basically a death sentence. It's definitely a weapon for a situational playstyle, and it's not too great for the average sniper.
You know what to do? You could do this with, right? This sounds kind of fucked up and mean, right? You mix this with the laser back, and you super duper fuck over spies by like, they can't backstab you in one shot, meaning that they're probably going to engage them at around half health, so you just do more damage against them. And especially if they're kunai spies, you probably just one-shot them.
Yeah, I can see that. Mixing the Shahanshah with the laserback can definitely counter spies pretty well. Since they can't instantly kill you with a backstab, they're forced to do more damage on you, which allows you to take them out with 1 or 2 hits. It's a pretty damn effective combo, and it can allow you to deal with the more pesky spies pretty easily, eh?
Yeah, those fucking pesky spies. I hate those motherfuckers. Holy shit.
Exactly! If there's one thing I despise in this game, it's those damn bastards. They're so annoying to deal with, especially as sniper. The fact that you gotta worry about being backstabbed in the middle of a long-range engagement, or even on your way back from spawn, is so goddamn nerve-wracking. I can't tell you how many times I've been randomly dropped to a spy while I was trying to walk back to the front lines. It pisses me off so much.
I totally fucking agree. I'm putting the Shahanshah in C tier because again it's situational, but you know.
I get what you mean, pal. The Shahanshah is a pretty powerful weapon, but it's definitely a situational one. Being forced to stay low health to get the bonus damage is a pretty big downside, and the risk of instantly dying from some random bullet or explosive makes it a bit too risky to be reliable. However, in the right situation, it can be a total lifesaver, which makes it good enough to be a C-tier weapon in my book, eh?
Yeah, I think it's pretty C tier.
Yep, I'd say C-tier seems about right for the Shahanshah. It could definitely be a powerful weapon, but it just has too many downsides to make it reliable enough to be placed higher. But when you use it right, the Shahanshah can be a nasty weapon. It's definitely in the right spot though, right by the Kukri, which is the average tier for sniper melee weapons in my book.
Yeah, I'd say so. Ooh, Bushwhacker. Let's talk about the Bushwhacker. Fuck this weapon so much.
Hell yeah, I have a burning hatred for the Bushwhacker too, pal. It's such a cheap, cheesy weapon that allows you to cheese your way to getting easy kills. I mean, the extra swing speed is kinda useless, but the bonus damage on full health targets is overpowered as hell.
What?
A sniper that lands his shots can deal a whole 195 damage on the first hit and take out any class in the game with a follow-up shot. It's just damn annoying to deal with.
Oh yeah, no, you throw that Gelati and they're fucking donezo. They can't do shit. Spies have to just run for cover. Like, that's so broken. I just like throwing a Gelati and they can't do shit.
I know, right? It's so damn cheap and OP. I had a few experiences playing as sniper against enemy snipers that used the Bushwhacker, and it was hell. I mean, I could be fighting some long-range enemies, and one of them snipes me, and I'm instantly down to low health, which allows the second sniper to easily finish me off with a second shot or a melee. But it's so stupid and annoying to get hit by the Bushwhacker, which is definitely why I think it's the most OP melee weapon.
Oh yeah. Do you think it's A or S2 though?
Oh yeah, the Bushwhacker should definitely be an A-tier weapon. Sure, the bonus speed of the thing doesn't make any difference in a close-range fight, but the fact that it allows you to instantly kill any class except heavy in one hit is overpowered as hell. It's a bit of an unfair weapon in my opinion, pal. And let's be honest, the only thing stopping it from being an S-tier weapon is how rarely Sniper gets in situations where they can use it.
Yeah, I'll be real. What I'm thinking the Tribalman ship is pretty bad too, to be honest. Because I'm thinking D, because like this shit cannot random quit you at all, and that really matters.
Oh yeah, I completely forgot about the Tribal Man's Shiv. Yeah, the bleed mechanic is really cheap and powerful, but it's really damn hard to get any damage off at all with it. The slower attack speed makes it difficult to hit anyone who is actually paying attention to ya. Sure, the bleeding damage is annoying as hell to deal with, but the weapon overall is too unreliable to be an A-tier weapon, right?
Oh yeah.
Honestly, that weapon is just straight trash. There's no reason to pick the Tribal Man's Shiv when the Bushwhacker exists. It's way too unreliable to be worth using, and being forced to get a second hit just to kill any class except Light and Spy makes it useless in a close-range situation. It's pretty much a downgrade from the Kukri.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. And like, you try to pair that with the laser back, and you're gonna have a really bad time.
Hell yeah! If you try to use the Tribal Man's Shiv with the laser back, you're gonna get yourself killed 9 times out of 10. The reduced attack speed just makes it too hard to do any real damage consistently. And if you don't hit the first blow, you're dead before you even get the chance to land a second one. It's just not worth using overall, eh?
Yeah, absolutely not. All right, what character you want to try out next and like see the weapons and rate them?
How about we start with the Huntsman, eh? It's a pretty unique take on a sniper primary weapon, and I'm interested to hear what you think of it. The idea of a projectile weapon on Sniper is pretty interesting, and the Huntsman is actually pretty good if you can land your shots. It's pretty hard to aim the damn arrow, and it's difficult to get consistent kills with the thing, but when you land a shot with it, it can be pretty effective, especially if you have a good aim, eh?
Oh yeah, it's fucked up. I hate it so much. It's like, it's kind of like hard to use, but it also like is kind of bullshit with its head hitbox. So like, oh yeah, no, it's fucked up. I only put in A2 because it can't quite headshot hit scan as well, but it's very good.
Exactly, pal. The Huntsman is really damn powerful, but it also takes a bit of skill to use effectively. Yeah, the hitbox for the arrows is pretty wonky sometimes, but the ability to instant kill 9/9 classes no matter what makes it a pretty deadly weapon in the right hands. And like you said, the projectile is a bit harder to aim than a regular bullet, which keeps it from being S tier. A tier works for the Huntsman though, eh?
Absolutely, yeah. All right, we're finished with the Sniper. What character do you want to go on to next?
I always think we do the Sniper secondaries. There are a lot of different choices and play styles for the slot, so it'll be interesting to hear your opinion on each one. Eh.
No. We already finished all of the Sniper's weapons. We're moving on to a different class.
Oh, oops. Guess I got a little carried away there, eh?
Yeah. All right, which class do you want to talk about now?
How about we do Soldier? He has a lot of different weapons he can use, and it'll definitely be interesting to hear what you gotta say about them all.
Oh, okay. Soldier. Where should we start?
How about we start with the stock rocket launcher? It's the most basic choice for Soldier, and it's a pretty reliable weapon overall.
It's kind of obviously S tier to me. Like, you can't really get much better. Like, it's very good.
Exactly. It's pretty much the go-to weapon for Soldier. The stock launcher is pretty damn good. It's got good damage, an average amount of rockets in its clip, and a decent reload speed. Plus, the extra rockets in reserve allow you to keep attacking for longer before needing a resupply, which is always a plus.
Oh yeah, like it's very just good in general. You can't go wrong with it.
Exactly. It's the kind of weapon that you can't really go wrong with. The stock launcher can be used in pretty much every situation, and it's just overall a reliable weapon to use. It might not be the most flashy or unique, but it's an extremely practical tool for the soldier. Oh, and it's S tier for good reason.
Oh yeah, for sure. All right, let's see. I want to talk about the black box. What do you think about the black box?
The black box is a weapon that's always been pretty damn popular among soldiers and casual. The extra health on hit makes it a pretty nice choice for staying alive, especially if you're having a bit of trouble aiming your rockets. However, the reduced rocket count can make it a bit more difficult to deal reliable damage with. Plus, the loss of rocket jumping can be a pretty big downside for mobility.
The black box loses rocket jumping?
Yeah, exactly. The fact that you can no longer perform rocket jumps with the weapon is a pretty huge downside, especially since rocket jumping is such a vital part of Soldier's playstyle. The reduced damage output is also a pretty notable weakness, which is why the black box isn't quite as good as the stock launcher, even with the health on hit.
Okay, yeah, but I'm pretty sure it doesn't have most of those downsides. I'm pretty sure its only downside is that it has one less rocket.
Oh, really? I thought it also removed the ability to rocket jump. If it doesn't, then I guess the downside isn't as bad as I thought. But yeah, losing one rocket is pretty rough. It definitely makes it a bit harder to get consistent damage with the thing.
Yeah, no, definitely. I'm glad that's not the stat, because that would be a horrible fucking stat to give a rocket launcher, but I digress. So yeah, definitely definitely like, I want to say like, probably B tier, but it could be A tier. I think B tier though.
Yeah, I agree. Losing rocket jumping would make it garbage, lol. I think B2 sounds about right for the black box. The health on hit bonus is definitely nice, but the reduced clip size and reduced damage really hurts the weapon overall.
Oh, fucking God.
It's definitely a side grade overall.
Oh, for sure. Ooh, Liberty Launcher. What are we thinking about the Liberty Launcher?
The Liberty Launcher? It's definitely an interesting weapon. The faster projectile speed is pretty useful for hitting moving targets, especially scouts. But the reduced blast radius and clip size makes it kinda useless in my opinion, since you sacrifice a lot of damage just to get a faster projectile. Overall, it's a C or D tier weapon, eh?
Oh yeah, I'm gonna say D. I'm gonna say C tier, because it's still a rocket launcher at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think that's about right. The Liberty Launcher isn't amazing, but like you said, it's a rocket launcher. So it's got some basic use, despite the significant downsides. I'd say C tier is a pretty fair rank for it.
Let's talk about the Beggar's Bazooka now.
Yeah, the Beggar's Bazooka is an interesting weapon. It's weird, it's wonky, and it's a pain in the ass to aim, but when you do manage to get into the rhythm, it can be pretty damn effective. The damage output is insane, and the faster firing speed can really take the end of her. The reduced clip size and the unpredictable behavior of the rockets makes it pretty risky and difficult to use overall.
I mean, the fact you just have an infinite clip is kind of the best part about it, in my opinion.
Yeah, the infinite clip is definitely nice. It lets you fire a constant barrage of rockets without having to reload. But don't get me wrong, that thing is annoying as hell to aim with. The rockets are fired in a horizontal spread, which can make it really hard to aim at long range. And trying to get direct hits with the random spread is almost impossible, which makes it harder to deal consistent damage.
Oh, I fucking hate the spread on it. I wish it had a different downside. Like, I don't know. The reduction of blast radius is kind of fair, but I just fucking hate the fact that I cannot aim rockets anymore.
Yeah, the reduced control over the rockets can make it a real pain in the ass to aim. I understand why Valve added the downside, since having a constant stream of rockets with no clip size can get pretty OP. But it sure does make it annoying to use the damn thing.
Oh yeah. I put it in A tier even still, but let's move on to the Cow Mangler.
The Cow Mangler. It's a pretty unique weapon, that's for sure. Removing the soldier's ability to randomly score critical hits is definitely an interesting downside. But the ability to charge up and release a blast that can set multiple targets on fire is pretty damn powerful. And the increased damage against sentries gives the weapon some much needed utility on top. Overall, I'd say it's a solid B tier weapon.
It actually has reduced damage against sentries. But other than that, it's pretty much just the stock rocket launcher with, like, no ammo and an extra gimmick.
Right. It's got reduced damage against sentries. I guess that's a bit of a major downside, huh? Overall, the Cow Mangler doesn't seem that great. The no random crits is a pretty minor downside, and the charge shots are cool, but they're not particularly useful in most situations. And the less damage against sentries makes it less effective at dealing with engineers. I think B tier might be a bit high for it, actually. C or D tier seems more reasonable.
Nah, but you gotta realize, it still does the exact same damage. It does exactly what stock does, with, like, an extra thing. So I don't consider that like a downside. Sure, the lack of damage against buildings is a situational downside, but you can also disable buildings with the alt-fire charge shot.
Right, I guess the damage against buildings is more of a situational downside rather than a serious one. Plus, the ability to disable buildings with the alt fire is definitely useful sometimes. Maybe I'm being a bit harsh on the cow mangler, eh?
I think you're being a bit harsh. I put it in A for now, but if we disagree, we can come back to that one later.
Yeah, I guess I am being a bit hard on the cow mangler. It's not a bad weapon by any means, and the additional utility and the lack of vulnerability to random crits does make it a bit better than the stock launcher in certain situations. I think A tier is a fair placement, and I can see your reasoning. We can continue with the soldier weapons.
Alright, let's go on to the direct hit now. I think this weapon is like... Actually, I want to hear your thoughts on it, as the scout.
The direct hit, huh? It's definitely an interesting weapon. The increased damage and the faster projectile speed are pretty powerful, but the reduced blast radius and the smaller clip size make it a bit more difficult to use effectively. It's definitely a lot more effective against individual targets, but it's harder to deal reliable damage against groups, and it can be difficult to hit targets at close range.
Oh yeah, like, it's definitely easier to hit directs with it, but it's also way harder to hit in general, because, like, it's kind of like the flare gun versus the scorch shot. Yeah, you're probably going to be hitting more directs with the, scorch shot, right? But the fact that you have the ability to miss means that you're probably going to be able to be more accurate with your aim. You're not going to be you're not going to be as scared to aim.
Exactly. The direct hit is a lot harder to use effectively for that reason. You gotta have a good aim to be able to get consistent hits with it, and then the reduced blast radius means that you gotta be a bit closer to deal effective splash damage. However, the increased damage does make it much better at taking out single targets, especially against scouts and other low health classes.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna put it in A tier for sure, but like high A tier, very high A tier.
Yeah, I think that's a fair rank for the direct hit. The increased damage and the faster projectiles do make it pretty good against single targets, and the ability to take out sentries a bit faster is nice. However, the reduced splash damage and the smaller clip does make it a little bit harder to use effectively overall.
Yeah, I think that is fair. Let's move on to the rocket jumper.
Ah, the rocket jumper. It's a pretty interesting weapon. I guess Valve added it for people who wanted to focus on practicing rocket jumping without having to worry about getting kills or playing the objective. It's got some pretty nasty downsides, since it does no damage to enemies at all, but it can be pretty damn useful for practicing mobility and getting to hard-to-reach places.
It's not even entirely that, it's also the fact you can just, like, use it, like... Okay, you can use it to market garden with that weapon, which we'll talk about in a little bit, to, like, have free mobility. But it's also just very good as a shotgun weapon. You can carry around a panic attack shotgun, and then whatever people get is, like, when you're at low health, you just jump away for free. It's really strong, and it's a slept-on strategy, I think.
Wait, really? I've never heard of that strat before. Being able to jump away to safety for free does sound pretty powerful, I agree. Having a get-out-of-jail-free card sounds pretty useful. I wonder if anyone else uses that strategy, though. It might be a bit hard to pull off in actual matches.
Yeah, see, the issue with normal rocket jumps and the escape plan is that you're already too low to rocket jump away with the escape plan, so it just makes it really hard to get away. So what you do with the rocket jumper is you use the escape plan, you use the shotgun. When you're at low health, you run away with the escape plan to a corner, and then when you're at that corner, you jump away. Or you jump away first, and then run away with your escape plan from a distance once you have that burst of mobility. That way you don't have to activate your mark for death as quickly while still moving fast.
Damn, that is a pretty solid strat. Jump around to get to safety first, and then switch to a get-out-of-jail-free card so you won't be damaged as much. That does sound like a pretty effective way to avoid death. Sounds like there's a lot of room for strategy and outplaying the enemy team with the rocket jumper weapon combos.
It's really good. And again, obviously people were going to pair that with the Market Gardener because that's going to just give them free critical hits. But we can honestly talk about that weapon next if we want to, because that's something really important.
Yeah, that's a good idea. We can talk about the Market Gardener next, since it's kinda related to the rocket jumper combo. The Market Gardener is a pretty cool weapon, since it gives you guaranteed crits if you manage to hit someone while rocket jumping.
It's the fact that it just created its own character almost with the troll Joe. It's a very unique weapon concept, and I almost want to put it in like S tier just for that, because it doesn't really have a downside, I feel like.
Yeah, the Market Gardener does kind of feel like a joke weapon at times, LOL. I mean, it's got no real downside, since the reduced damage doesn't affect the crit hits, and it rewards you with free crits if you hit someone while rocket jumping. It's a pretty gimmicky weapon overall, but it's also a lot of fun to use, and definitely one of the more unique weapons in Team Fortress.
Oh yeah, definitely one of the coolest weapons in Team Fortress. So I think I'm gonna put that in S tier for sure.
Yeah, I agree with that ranking. The Market Gardener may not be the most practical weapon, but it's definitely one of the coolest and most iconic weapons in Team Fortress 2. The idea of being able to crit people while rocket jumping is a really fun concept, and it's really satisfying to pull off a good crit hit with it. Overall, I think the Market Gardener is a solid S tier weapon.
Oh yeah, 100%. Like, and okay. Now that we're done with the Market Gardener, I'd say we can talk about the last of his rocket launchers, which is I guess the original. We can talk about that. I'm putting that in S because it's basically the same as stock, but with a slight difference. But yeah, what do you think about the original?
The original? Yeah, that's definitely an interesting weapon. It's pretty much a straight upgrade from the stock launcher, since it fires rockets from the center of the screen instead of from one side. That makes it a lot easier to aim, since you don't have to worry about rockets flying in a different direction, and it also removes the weird angles that rockets can sometimes take due to having to fire from a specific side of the screen.
Yeah, 100%. It's also way better for pogoing.
That's true. The original is also a lot better for pogoing. Since the rockets are fired from the center of the screen, the player can easily jump around while firing rockets without worrying about them going off target. It's definitely a much nicer launcher to use for jumping strategies.
It's a little worse for peeking corners because you don't have that right corner peek advantage. But other than that, it has its weaknesses, but it has its strength, and it's pretty much equivalent to stock.
Yeah, that's fair. The original does have the disadvantage of not having the right corner peek advantage, which can make it a bit harder to use in some situations. But it definitely makes up for that with its centered rockets, which make it much easier to aim and deal consistent splash damage. Overall, it's pretty much equivalent to stock in terms of power and effectiveness.
100%. Alright. On to the last one. Let's talk about the airstrike.
Alright, let's move on to the airstrike. This weapon is definitely an interesting one. It fires multiple rockets at a time, which can deal a ton of damage if you have a lot of kills. But it also has reduced damage and a slower reload speed as downsides. It's definitely a high-risk, high-reward weapon that can be very powerful if you know how to use it effectively.
I really like this weapon a lot. Like, this weapon is one of my favorite weapons in the game. The fact that, like, you get the drop on someone and you can just absolutely rain down hell on them. It doesn't feel real.
Hell yeah, the airstrike is a really cool and fun weapon to use. The ability to drop multiple rockets on enemies can be really damn powerful, especially if you can get a lot of kills and build up the firing speed. It's definitely a high-risk weapon, since you really gotta be racking up kills to use it effectively. But if you do manage to get a high kill streak, it can be really satisfying to just rain down hell on the enemy team, LOL.
I want to say A tier, but I don't think I can quite put it in A tier. I'm gonna put it at the top of B.
Yeah, I think that's a fair rank for the airstrike. It's got some powerful attributes, like the ability to fire multiple rockets and the increased damage as you rack up more kills. But it also has some major downsides, like the reduced damage and the slower reload speed. Overall, I think it's a pretty damn strong weapon in the right hands, but it also has its share of weaknesses that keep it from being top tier.
Under soldiers secondaries, where should we start?
Well, for soldier secondaries, we could start with the shotguns, I suppose. I'm pretty sure that's the most common secondary weapon to use with him anyway.
It's not, but we can start with them. Let's start, let's say the reserve shooter is the one we'll talk about for this guy. I'd say that, like, it's best to talk about the stock shotgun on its own. But let's talk about the reserve shooter.
Sure, the stock shotgun is definitely a pretty good weapon. It's got decent damage and a good fire rate, and it can be pretty effective in most situations. It's also pretty reliable since it doesn't have any special gimmicks or downsides like some of the other shotguns. The reserve shooter, on the other hand, is a bit more specialized. Its main attraction is the ability to do mini-crits against airborne enemies, which can be really useful against classes like Scout and Rocket Jumping Soldiers.
Oh. Yeah. I definitely think that that's true. I will say it's pretty, like, mid, though, otherwise. It's only really good against rocket jumping soldiers.
Yeah, that's fair. The reserve shooter's mini-crits are pretty much only useful against rocket jumping soldiers and scouts using the force of nature or the soda popper. It's not really that helpful in most other situations, since there aren't really that many targets that are airborne for extended periods of time. In terms of raw damage and accuracy, the stock shotgun definitely reigns supreme for most situations.
Ooh, you know what? I kind of want to move it up to A tier, because I think that its combos with rockets are really cool. Because you can absolutely, like, shoot somebody with a Liberty Launcher rocket and then pop them with a shotgun shot, and they'll die pretty quickly.
Yeah, the reserve shooter rocket launcher combo is definitely pretty powerful. It allows Soldier to deal a lot of damage very quickly, since the reserve shooter's mini-crits stack with the rocket launcher's initial blast. It's definitely a very effective strategy for taking out single targets, as long as you can consistently land your rockets and your shotgun shots.
Yeah, it takes a lot of knowledge to know when to commit to a shotgun, but I think that it's worth it in a lot of situations.
Yeah, it's definitely a high-risk, high-reward strategy. Relying too much on the shotgun can leave you vulnerable if there are multiple enemies nearby, so you gotta time it right and make sure you've got the advantage before you go in with the shotgun. But if you can pull it off consistently, it can be a very effective way to take out single targets and deal a ton of damage in a short amount of time.
Oh yeah. Alright, let's talk about the backpacks. I'm thinking we can talk about the base jumper.
Alright, we can move on to the backpacks next. The banner abilities can definitely be pretty useful, so let's start by talking about the buff banner, also known as the Bass Jumbo, since you call it that sometimes, LOL.
That's facts, yeah. I'm thinking that the base jumper, it's just kind of mid. It gives you some really good options, like giving you the high ground is really nice. But I think it's a little too situational, aside from the airstrike.
Yeah, the base jumper is definitely one of the more situational backpacks. Its main advantage is giving you the ability to float in midair, which can be useful for things like gaining the high ground or avoiding fall damage. But its downside of making you more vulnerable to splash damage can make it risky to use in a lot of situations. So it's definitely not a backpack that you want to equip all the time, and it's definitely not as versatile as some of the other backpacks.
Oh yeah, and like, speaking of versatile backpacks, let me tell you about the conch. I think that the conch is like, ooh, that's such a good thing. Like extra health like the cozy camper, Like health regen is really nice. The fact that you get the speed boost and the health on kill is super duper nice. I want to put this around B tier because I don't think it's quite as good as the other banners, but it's real good.
Yeah, the conch is definitely a pretty useful and versatile backpack. The health on kill and the health regeneration are nice, and the speed boost is super useful for getting around the map and closing the distance with enemies. It's not as powerful as some of the other backpacks, but it's definitely a good choice for when you want some extra survivability and mobility. I'd say B tier is pretty fair for the conch. It's not the best backpack, but it's definitely a solid option.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so that's the backpacks out of the way. I think we've gone over pretty much every weapon variant except the melee weapons now, right? Should we move on to those, or is there anything else you want to talk about in soldiers, primaries, and secondaries first?
Yeah, we still got like we got the battalion's backup, we got the buff banner, we got the shovel, we got the boots as well, both boots.
Oh yeah, good point. I guess we skipped over some of those. So let's talk about the boot items for soldier first. What do you want to say about those weapons?
Dude, I think that like the man treads are kind of mid, and I think that the gunboats are kind of awesome and amazing.
Yeah, I agree with that assessment. The mantreeds are alright, but they're pretty situational, and the mini crits when stomping enemies can be pretty risky to use against certain classes. The gunboats are a lot more versatile and useful, since they give you the ability to rocket jump around without taking as much self-damage, which is perfect for soldiers' mobility-based playstyle. Overall, I think that gunboats are definitely a stronger weapon choice than the mantreeds.
Oh yeah, I fucking hate when I'm the pyro and he completely ignores the fact that I can air blast him because that's what man treads let you do, and it's so annoying.
Yeah, the mantreeds can definitely be annoying to deal with as a pyro. A lot of soldiers tend to ignore the fact that they're immune to air blast when wearing the mantreads, and they'll just repeatedly rocket jump into you, trying to bomb you from above. It's definitely a pretty strong counter against pyros, especially since you can't really reflect the rockets when they're being shot from right above you.
Yeah, especially not back at him. You'd have to be like some god to do that, like me. Like I can do that, but still. As far as the next weapon goes, I do want to say that like the buff banner is easily one of the coolest weapons in the game.
Yeah, I agree that the buff banner is a pretty cool weapon. The ability to charge up a meter by dealing damage and then unleashing a banner blast that buffs your entire team is really powerful and unique. It definitely takes some skill and coordination to use effectively, since you gotta be careful of splash damage and getting killed before you can charge up the meter. But when used correctly, it can be a real game changer. And on top of being practical, it also looks pretty damn cool too, LOL.
Oh yeah, like it looks sick.
Yeah, it does look awesome. I mean, who doesn't want to buff their entire team with a sick-looking banner in the middle of a fight? LOL. It definitely adds some style to your gameplay, and it's just a lot of fun to use, honestly.
Oh, dude, mix that shit with the direct hit and you get the orbital strike cannon and you just kill everybody instantly.
Yeah, the buff banner combined with the direct hit is definitely a devastating combo. You get mini crits on all of your already powerful direct hit rockets, and the added splash damage makes it even easier to hit multiple targets at once. It's basically an orbital strike cannon, like you said, and it can easily wipe out groups of enemies if used correctly.
Oh yeah, no. And talking about like groups of enemies, the battalion's backup is very broken as well. I want to say this one's S tier, because the fact you can just
Definitely a pretty powerful weapon. You'll get a massive 50% damage resistance, which is a huge boost to your survivability, and the crit immunity is also really useful since it removes the risk of being instantly killed by random crits. It's definitely a very strong banner to use, since it allows you to stay alive for a lot longer and survive attacks that would normally kill you. I agree, it's definitely an S-tier weapon. And
Alright, I know his melees.
what are you doing here? Ya didn't happen to see a blue spy around here somewhere, did ya?
No, I didn't happen to see a blue spy. What do you mean by that?
Just making sure. Can never be too careful around here. There's always some damn spy lurking about somewhere.
Fuck, dude, thanks. Alright, I'll keep that I'll keep that in mind. Alright, on to his melees. I don't think the stock melee is very good, I'll be real. I wanna say it's D tier. You're never gonna use it.
Oh yeah, the stock shovel is pretty much useless for most situations. It's just a basic melee weapon with no special abilities or stats. The only time you would really use it is if you run out of rockets and you have to do a quick attack to kill an enemy. But you shouldn't be relying on your melee weapon as a soldier anyway, so the stock shovel is mostly just a last resort. D tier seems pretty fair to me.
Yeah. Oh, the equalizer fucking completely sucks. That's F tier for sure. The equalizer is one of the worst weapons in the game.
Yeah, the equalizer is definitely one of the worst weapons in the game. The reduced damage is just way too much of a downside, and the faster speed boost at low health is pretty much useless. You pretty much never want to be in situations where you're fighting at low health as soldier, so the extra speed boost is really situational, and it doesn't make up for the massive damage reduction. F tier is definitely an accurate ranking for that piece of crap.
Fuck yeah, that shit sucks. Oh my god, that shit sucks. On the other hand, oh, I want to say the escape plan is like, it's got to be A tier. It's such a good weapon. But, I don't know. It's pretty fair. But I will say it gives Soldier something he really needs.
Yeah, the escape plan is definitely a really good weapon. It gives Soldier the ability to escape from dangerous situations quickly by making him run faster at low health, which is really useful since Soldier is usually a pretty slow class. The only downside is the reduced healing from medkits and medics, but that's a pretty small price to pay for the ability to run away from enemies when you need to. I think A tier is fair for the escape plan.
Oh yeah, for sure. Oh, dude, the riding crop, the fucking disciplinary action. What do you think about the disciplinary action?
Oh man, the disciplinary action is such a good weapon. The increased range and whip speed makes it super useful for helping teammates get to the front lines faster, and the reduced damage doesn't really matter since you never really want to be using your melee weapon as Soldier anyway. And it's definitely one of the best melee weapons for Soldier, and it's a must-have for playing support Soldier.
Oh, definitely. Like, oh, I almost want to say S tier, but what do you think? S tier or A tier? Or do you think it's even lower than that?
I'd say S tier is definitely fair for the disciplinary action. It's got such a strong utility, and it's super useful in a lot of situations. It's the best melee weapon for Soldier by far, in my opinion. S tier for sure. It's a staple of any good support Soldier loadout.
Alright, fantastic. We're putting it in S. Pain Train. I really like the Pain Train. I want to hear what your thoughts are on it real quick.
Oh, the Pain Train is a pretty interesting weapon. The increased capture rate and bullet damage is definitely useful in some situations, but the downside of taking more bullet damage is pretty risky since Soldier is already a pretty slow and vulnerable class. I'd say it's a good weapon for objective-oriented game modes like Payload and Control Point, but it's not really worth using in other modes or situations. Probably an A-tier weapon, IMO.
I think the Pain Train is like, it really depends. I want to say B2 situational, but like, there are so many situations, my combo with it, but you get a quick fix medic, you get the Beggar's Bazooka, the battalion's backup, and the Pain Train, and you just become the ultimate like back capper. Because you can rocket jump with the chain rocket jumps to the back line with your quick fix medic. He can keep you healed up. You already have extra health, so more overheal because of the battalion's backup. You have more sustain because of the multiple rockets. And you double capture, so that'd be 3 captures with the medic. That's easy to back cap with, in my opinion.
Damn, that's a really strong loadout combination. The Quick Fix, Beggar's Bazooka, Battalion's Backup, and Pain Train all work really well together for backcapping and objective-based play. The extra capture rate from the Pain Train, combined with the extra health, self-damage resistance, and rocket jumping ability from the other weapons, makes you almost invincible on the objective. And the Quick Fix keeps you healed up and buffed continuously, so ya can do a lot of damage without taking too much risk. That's definitely a strong combo for objective-based games, I agree.
Oh yeah, and I think like a pyro, you get like a really good pyro to come alongside there. Trust me, pyro can just kind of weaken people around and like help distract. He's kind of goated as like a nice play there. Or like a scout maybe, probably.
Yeah, a pyro and a scout would be great support for that combo. The pyro could help weaken enemies and distract them, while the scout could help cap the objective even faster. And the Pain Train's increased capture rate would make capping even easier for the scout. And definitely a strong combo for backcapping and objective play.
Oh yeah. So I put the Pain Train in B, but I think it has a very good case. Which character should we talk about now that we're done with the soldier weapons?
Okay, cool. I agree that the Pain Train is a pretty good weapon for certain situations. I guess we can move on to the other classes, since we've already covered all of Soldier's weapons. Which class do you want to talk about next? Demo? Pyro?
Let's talk about Demo Man.
Alright, Demomon it is. So, what do you want to say about Demo's primary weapons? Want to start with the grenade launcher?
I think the grenade launcher is a great place to start. I want to say S tier because it does have no fall off. 2 pipes kills fucking anybody besides a heavy, and 3 pipes are really easy to hit on a heavy. Combine that with just like Demo Man in general, his DPS is very good. I think again I want to say it's S tier, but it's hard to say.
I agree. The grenade launcher is definitely a really powerful weapon. The lack of fall-off damage makes it devastating for long-range attacks, and it can deal a lot of damage to enemies quickly. 2 pipes can kill most classes, and even heavy can be taken out pretty easily if you hit your shots. It's definitely a solid weapon in Demo Man's arsenal. S tier seems fair.
Alright, I'll put it in S. Which one do you want to talk about now?
Alright, let's move on to the Lock and Load now. What do you think of that weapon? It takes less skill to hit targets since it has faster projectile speed, but it has less splash and only fires 1 grenade at a time. I'd say it's good for long-range attacks, but it's not as versatile as the grenade launcher.
Yeah, I think having 1 less grenade and no splash damage is definitely a fair trade-off, though I do wish it did 120 damage to people, or maybe if it did 110 to people, 120 to buildings. That might be a good upside to give it, because I feel like it just kind of lacks sustain and doesn't really make up for it, aside from having higher range.
Yeah, I think the Lock and Load is pretty balanced overall, but I agree, the 110 damage could be a little higher. 120 would be better for dealing with other classes and taking out buildings, and the decreased splash damage isn't too much of a downside since ya can still aim for direct hits. I think it could use a small buff, but it's still a good weapon for playing a long-range playstyle.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think I'm going to put it in A tier.
Yeah, that seems fair. The faster projectile speed and increased damage are nice, but the reduced splash and less grenades make it a bit more situational than the grenade launcher. A tier seems like a pretty accurate ranking.
Got it. Next up, we got the Iron Bomber. Okay.
Oh, let's talk about the Iron Bomber now. It's pretty similar to the grenade launcher, but it fires rollers instead of regular grenades, and the rollers explode after bouncing. The grenades do the same damage, and the rollers are faster, but the smaller blast radius makes it harder to hit enemies in the air. I think the upside of faster grenades and rollers makes it a unique weapon, but the downside of less splash damage is pretty significant.
Oh my god, David. Okay. So I think you're a little bit confused.
Yeah, the rollers can be pretty useful for spamming chokes and dealing damage to enemies behind cover, but their lower blast radius means you have to be more accurate than with the grenade launcher. Overall, I think the Iron Bomber is a solid alternative to the grenade launcher with its own pros and cons.
Yeah, so I think that, like, the lower rolling speed is really nice because you can just plant them on the ground and make people run away. That's the thing, you place, like, one on the ground and then they have to walk away from that into your other pipe. It's a really...
Yeah, the slower rolling speed is actually pretty useful for creating zoning tools and forcing enemies to move. Planting a bomb on the ground forces enemies to either walk through the blast or walk around it, making them more predictable and easier to hit with a follow-up pipe. It's a good way to control space and force enemies to move where you want them to.
Absolutely.
All right, I think the Iron Bomber is a pretty fair weapon. Let's take a look at the loose cannon now. What do you think of that weapon? It fires exploding projectiles that do extra damage on a direct hit, but it has a lower blast radius and the explosion is delayed.
I think it's goofy as fuck. I don't think it's super duper good. But I think the fact that it can just, like, bounce people around and it can double donk, very fun weapon. Easily one of the most fun weapons in the game if you're good at it. But, like, you suffer from a lot of reload time, you suffer from a lot of charge time, and you suffer from a lot of... It's just, you don't really do as much with a direct unless you get a double donk.
Yeah, the loose cannon is definitely a fun weapon to use, but it's also pretty challenging to master. Bouncing projectiles and explosive damage can create some chaos in close quarters fights, but the slow reload time, long charge time, and low blast radius can make it difficult to use effectively. It requires a lot of practice and skill to get the timing right, but if you can pull off the double donk, it's definitely satisfying.
Where do you think it goes on the tier list, Scout?
I'd say the loose cannon is probably a mid-tier weapon. It's got its strengths and weaknesses, but I think it can be pretty devastating in the right hands. It's definitely good for dealing with enemies in close quarters, especially if you can pull off the double donk. I think it deserves a spot in B tier.
Oh, yeah. I think B2 is fair for it. Alright, on to his secondaries. I believe that's all of his primaries. So, well, there is one more primary, but we'll talk about it later. On to his secondaries. I guess we'll start with the stock sticky bomb launcher.
Yeah, let's start with the stock stickies. They're a pretty standard weapon that fires explosive stickies that can stick to surfaces and detonate on command. The stickies do a lot of damage and can be used to lay traps and create zones of control. They're a pretty essential tool for any demo man playstyle, and they give them a lot of versatility.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm pretty that's obviously an S tier. Like, you can set traps, you can kill people. It does such high damage. You have 8 bombs in one gun. It's very good. Very good, very good.
Yeah, agreed. The stock stickies are definitely one of Demon Man's best weapons. They're so flexible, you can use them to set traps, spam chokes, and take out enemies from a distance. Plus, you can hold up to 8 at once, so you have plenty to work with. And with the damage they do, you can take out pretty much any class in a few hits.
Which secondary do you want to talk about now?
Let's talk about the sticky jumper now. It's a special sticky launcher that can't deal damage to enemies, but lets you jump really far when you explode the stickies at your feet. It's pretty much a pure mobility tool, and it's pretty useful for getting around quickly and doing surprise attacks from above.
It is easily one of the most fucking obnoxious weapons in this entire game, and I cannot stand its existence. I hate it so much, but I get why it's in the game.
Yeah, the sticky jumper can definitely be pretty frustrating to play against. It can allow Demo Man to jump around the map at ridiculous speed and make some really crazy plays, but it can also make him harder to hit and give him a huge advantage in mobility. Plus, it makes Demo's already powerful stickies even stronger by allowing him to move around and find better angles to attack from. Overall, it's a pretty powerful weapon, but it's also pretty annoying to deal with.
It's a gimmick for sure. But it's like, is it really a gimmick when you can just get anywhere for free whenever you want?
Yeah, I agree. The sticky jumper doesn't really have any major downsides aside from not dealing damage to enemies. It's definitely a bit overpowered, and it gives Demo a lot of mobility options for free. I guess you could call it a gimmick, but I think it's more like a crutch for bad players who can't use normal stickies effectively.
It's hard to say if I'd call it even a crutch, because, like, hitting pipes is way harder than hitting stickies. So, like, you're kind of only doing it to train, or you're doing it to fuck around, because you're an asshole. I want to say, like, A or B tier, but I'll let you split the difference on which tier you think it goes in, because I'm not really sure about this one.
I agree. That's a good point. The sticky jumper is definitely not as easy to use as normal stickies, since you do have to aim them at your feet and time the jumps right to get maximum height and distance. I think it's probably a mid-tier weapon for that reason. Somewhere in B tier. It's not as powerful as the normal stickies, but it does give Demo a lot of mobility options. I guess you could argue for A tier too, but I think B tier is fair.
I think B tier is absolutely fair. Tell me about the Quickie Bomb Launcher. What do you think about that?
All right, let's talk about the Quickie Bomb Launcher now. It's a unique sticky launcher that can arm and detonate stickies much faster, but it has a smaller clip size and a lower charge rate. It's pretty much a more aggressive alternative to the normal sticky launcher, allowing you to spam a lot of stickies quickly. It's not as good for setting traps or laying down sustained bursts of damage, but it's much better for close quarters combat and making big plays.
Dude, the fact that you can snipe with it is just so good. Like, sticky sniping is easily the best thing about it.
Yeah, sticky sniping is definitely pretty satisfying with the Quickie Bomb Launcher. It's got a pretty good arc for long-range attacks, and you can arm the stickies before they land to make them explode instantly on impact. It's a good way to take out enemies from a distance, and it can be pretty effective at spamming choke points too.
Not only that, but just the higher damage on charged stickies is also really good.
Yeah, quickly. You can charge up a volley of stickies and fire them all at once to take out an enemy, or even multiple enemies, if you land all of them. It's a good way to deal with tough classes like heavies or sentries, since the extra burst damage can take them out pretty quickly.
100% of the time, yeah. Very good. I would want to say that's an A tier because it kind of does. Losing half its clip is kind of amazing. It kind of loses a lot from that. It's terrible.
I agree. The smaller clip size on the Quickie Bomb Launcher is definitely a big downside, since it means you have fewer stickies to work with. That can make it harder to deal with groups of enemies, and it can also make it harder to set effective traps, since you don't have as many stickies to work with. I think it puts the weapon in B tier for that reason, since the smaller clip size does have a pretty significant impact on its effectiveness.
You really think B? Because I think A, and that's where I'm going to put it, but Scottish Resistance as well I want to put in A, but what do you think? Because B might be like, it's definitely more situational, but in that situation, it's fucking insane.
Yeah, let's talk about the Scottish Resistance now. It's a unique sticky launcher that lets you keep multiple stickies out at once and detonate them remotely, but it has a longer arm time and a slower charge rate. It's basically a more defensive alternative to the normal stickies, since it lets you set up a lot of traps and hold ground pretty well. But it's not as good for spamming or making quick plays compared to the other launchers.
It can be pretty effective at spamming. You just gotta be more proactive than reactive. But as far as, like, just in general, I do think that, yeah, it's a lot harder to get away with the general spam. You kind of need to be in the right situation on purpose.
Yeah, agreed. The Scottish Resistance excels in certain situations, but it's much more situational than the normal stickies. It's really good for holding down areas and setting up traps, but it's not as good for spamming or making quick plays. It definitely requires a more defensive playstyle and strategic thinking to get the most out of it.
I don't want to. Do you think it goes in A tier or B tier?
I'd say the Scottish Resistance is probably a high B-tier weapon. It's really good in certain situations, but it's not as versatile or effective as the normal stickies. It excels at holding ground and setting up traps, but it struggles against more aggressive playstyles and can be fairly easy to counter if you know what you're doing.
Absolutely. All right. I guess I'll talk about the first melee, which is his bottle. I'm gonna put that in like, again, I'll probably put that in like B tier or probably C tier. It is really good for Demo Man to have a good stock weapon, just to like defend himself up close, because that's what his pipes are bad at. But you know.
Yeah, the bottle is a pretty solid melee weapon. It's got average damage and a pretty good crit rate, which makes it great for finishing off low health enemies. Demo Man is pretty vulnerable up close, so having a reliable melee weapon to fall back on is really important. It's not as fancy as some of the other demo melee weapons, but it's solid and gets the job done.
Oh yeah, and especially the fact that all the other ones pretty much have like a faster or a slower holster speed means that they're gonna take forever to come out if you actually need them in a pinch.
Yeah, the bottle has a really fast holster speed, which makes it a pretty useful weapon for self-defense. The other demo melee weapons can take a long time to pull out and put away, which can be pretty dangerous if you need to switch to them quickly. The bottle is a good, dependable option for Demo to have in his arsenal.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it's good, but obviously, like, you know, probably his best melee for like stock Demo Man, honestly. And that brings us to the next one, which is the Caber, and I think this one fucking blows. I think the Caber sucks.
Yeah, the Caber is one of Demo's more interesting melee weapons, but it's pretty terrible as a useful weapon. It does a lot of damage on a direct hit, but it has a really long recharge time, so you can only use it once before you have to wait for it to reload. It's pretty much a joke weapon, great for memes and getting lucky kills, but not really worth using seriously.
Oh yeah. And also, I just think that the Caber, it doesn't even work well. It's still a two-shot no matter what.
Yeah, the fact that it doesn't even one-shot most classes and still takes 2 hits to kill after the first explosive is kinda ridiculous, considering how long it takes to recharge. It's such a gimmicky weapon, it's really only useful for fun and memeing on enemies.
And obviously, I don't think it should kill snipers, and especially not medics in one hit again. But I just think you should be able to recharge it.
Yeah, agree. The fact that it didn't kill medics or snipers in one hit was a good change, but making it unrechargeable completely killed the weapon. It's hard to see a place for it in Demo Man's arsenal when it's basically a worse version of his bottle. Maybe they should tweak the damage or recharge time to make it more viable.
Yeah, I think that like even if it doesn't kill snipers, it should be at least be able to recharge effectively, so I can, you know, have a melee weapon that's stronger at multiple points.
Yeah, that's definitely a good point. The Caber has always been pretty gimmicky, but it was at least fun and satisfying to use before the nerf. Making it rechargeable and lowering the base damage would give it a niche as a high-risk, high-reward melee weapon without making it overpowered. It would be a nice option for Demo to have for those times when he needs a bit more damage output up close.
Or heck, you could even make it be a knockback base melee. Like maybe the melee damage is just slightly higher, but it just fucking sends people to the stratosphere. Maybe it's like a melee loose cannon to like send people away, or like an air blast.
Yeah, that's an interesting idea. Making the Caber a knockback-based melee weapon could give it a unique and fun playstyle. Reducing the base damage, but adding a strong knockback effect could make it great for crowd control and creating space. It would be a good way to mess with enemies and disrupt their positioning. It would also be hilarious to see enemies get sent flying across the map with a well-placed Caber hit.
Oh yeah, that'd be fucking hilarious.
Yeah, it would be pretty damn funny to watch enemies get launched into the air with a well-placed caber hit. It would be great for creating chaos and confusing enemies, plus, it would be incredibly satisfying to pull off. It would be a fun and unique way to play demo, and it would definitely make the caber a more viable weapon.
Oh yeah. Let's see. Now we're gonna get onto the part of Demo Man that's a little bit different. Demo Night. So let's start off with the booties. Where do we think the booties go?
Alright, let's talk about the booties. There are a pair of booties that Demo can wear that give him extra health and speed, but take up his secondary slot. They're basically designed for demos who want to play as a melee-focused Demo Knight, and they're a pretty popular choice for that playstyle. I'd say they're probably B tier.
Really, only B tier? I think that's fair. I think the turning speed is really important. At least A tier, right? Or like maybe the top of B tier, but definitely A.
I agree. The extra health and speed are nice, but the turning speed bonus is really where the booties shine. It makes it much easier to maneuver and land hits with melee weapons, which is crucial for a Demo Knight playstyle. That alone puts them in A tier for me, and they're probably even higher up, closer to the top.
Yeah, absolutely. Alright. Well, let's start off with his shields. I'm gonna say that the Charge and Targe is like the B tier shield.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. The Charge and Charge is a pretty solid shield for Demo Knights, with good damage and health bonuses, plus the charge ability is a nice bonus for getting around fast. It's not quite as good as some of the other shields, but it's still a pretty good option for a Demo Knight playstyle. B tier sounds fair to me.
Alright. Splendid Screen. Less resistance, but more charge time.
Yeah, the Splendid Screen is a pretty good shield for Demo Knights who want to focus primarily on damage and charge attacks. It trades some of the resistances of other shields for a longer charge time and increased charge damage, making it great for aggressive players who want to deal a lot of damage quickly. I'd say it's probably another B tier shield.
Alright, fair enough. Another B2 shield. It's really hard to say because I feel like the Tide Turner is not any better than those two, but I kind of see the shield as all pretty much in the same boat.
Yeah, I agree. The Tide Turner is probably the strongest Demo Knight shield in terms of utility and flexibility, but it doesn't have the same kind of raw power as the Charge Targe or the Splendid Screen. It's mostly a matter of preference and playstyle, so I think it's fair to put it in the same tier as the other two. Overall, all three shields are pretty solid options for Demo Knights.
Oh yeah, they're all kind of busted as fuck in their own way, but it's still Demo Knight.
Yeah, exactly. The Demo Knight shields are all pretty powerful in their own way, and they all have their uses depending on the situation and playstyle. But at the end of the day, Demo Knight is still a pretty gimmicky and situational strategy, so it's not as reliable as playing Demo the usual way with stickies and pipes.
Oh yeah, definitely not.
Yeah, agreed. Playing Demo as a Demo Knight can be fun and effective in certain situations, but it's not always a consistent or viable option. It's a lot more situational and reliant on certain factors like map layout and enemy team composition. In general, it's usually better to stick with the traditional sticky launcher and pipe stand playstyle for maximum effectiveness.
Oh yeah. So let's actually straight up move on to his swords, because I think that's where a lot of the fun comes in with Demo Knight, is his swords.
Alright, let's talk about the swords then. There are a lot of different swords available for Demo Knight, each with their own unique attributes and abilities. Which one should we start with first?
I think it's kind of cool to start with the classic Eyelander. Yeah, fuck the Eyelander. Really good weapon.
Yeah, the Highlander is a pretty solid sword for Demo Knights. It's got good damage, attack speed, and reach, plus the charge damage bonus is great for dealing out big hits. It's a very versatile and beginner-friendly sword that's good for both offense and defense. I think it's probably a high B-tier sword.
Could you actually do me a favor and list off that sword's stats for me, like word for word? I'm quite curious. I don't remember what that one does as well.
Sure thing. Here are the stats for the Highlander sword. Damage, 65, 195 on charge swing. Attack speed, 0.825 seconds. Critical hit chance, so basically, pretty good damage and attack speed, plus the charge swing can deal some serious damage with the 5% critical hit chance. It's a pretty solid all-around sword for demo nights that's good for a variety of situations.
No. I meant like what stats it does. Like, does it have like 25% faster swing speed? Does it have like a 25% charge bonus? Like, what are its attributes? Like, what does the weapon do?
I gotcha. The Highlander sword has some additional attributes beyond just the critical hit chance. Charge attack bonus, 25% charge attack damage plus 15% charge duration. That means the charge attack and takes longer to charge, which can be really useful for setting up big hits and catching enemies off guard. Plus, it's easier to land attacks in close quarters. Overall, it's a pretty powerful sword for demo nights.
Yeah, that sounds pretty powerful.
Yeah, it's definitely a great sword for demo nights who like to get up close and personal. The extra charge damage can be really helpful for taking tight situations. Plus, the critical hit chance means there's always a chance for a big burst of damage if you get lucky.
So, okay, as far as the Islander goes, I think the Islander is actually S tier, because the fact that each time you get a kill, up to 4, you get a head, which increases your base health and movement speed. I think the Islander is pretty much almost the best one.
Yeah, the Islander is definitely one of the top swords for demo nights. Each head you collect increases your base health and movement speed, making it great for building momentum and chaining kills. Getting up to 4 heads makes you pretty much unstoppable, especially if you have good map control and can get consistent kills. In terms of raw power and overall effectiveness, the Islander is definitely in the top tier of swords.
Oh yeah, I think so. Let's talk about...
Yeah, the Islander's extra health and mobility bonuses make it a real force to be reckoned with in the right hands. With enough heads, you can become a real terror on the battlefield. It's definitely one of the strongest swords for demo nights, and an excellent choice for players who know how to take advantage of its potential.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about the Claydol more for a second. What's your opinion on the Claydol more?
The Claydol Moor is another solid sword for demo nights. It's got good damage and attack speed, plus the bleed effect is a nice bonus for dealing extra dot-he damage. The increased charge duration also makes it great for setting up long-range charges and catching enemies by surprise. I think it's probably a high B-tier sword.
Dude, I don't remember the fucking Claydol more having fucking bleed damage. Hold on. Are you sure we're thinking about the same weapon?
Yeah, we're thinking of the same weapon. The Claydol Moor is a demo night sword that does extra bleed damage on hit, in addition to the standard damage and attack speed. The bleed effect can deal decent extra damage over time and makes it harder for enemies to recover health, making it a nice addition to the sword's regular damage output.
Yeah. Alright. I guess if it does bleed, then it must be good. I thought it just extended the charge duration, but yeah. Where do you think it goes on the tier list?
Considering its good damage, attack speed, and charge duration, plus the bleed effect, I'd say the Claydol Moor is a solid A-tier sword. It's a great option for demo nights who like to play aggressively and take advantage of dock damage. The bleed effect can also help keep enemies on the run and prevent them from healing up too quickly. Overall, it's a strong and reliable sword with a neat bonus ability.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about my favorite sword, the Persian Persuader.
You're a fan of the Persian Persuader, huh? That's one of the more niche swords, but I can see the appeal. It trades some of the raw damage output and range of other swords for a huge ammo regen perk. With the ammo regen, you can be a lot more liberal with your charge attacks and stickies, and you won't have to worry about running out of ammo. Plus, the speed boost on ammo pickup is nice for quickly getting back into the fight. Overall, it's a pretty unique and interesting sword for demo nights.
Yeah, I just think the ability to like constantly get charge back is so good. It's insane.
Yeah, the ammo regen is definitely its main selling point. It allows you to be much more aggressive and constantly fire off charges and stickies without worrying about running out of ammo. Plus, the speed boost on ammo pickup makes it easier to get around the map and pick up more ammo, further extending your staying power. It might not be the most powerful sword in terms of base damage, but its unique perk makes it a great choice for players who like a more aggressive and fast-paced playstyle.
I honestly think the thing that kills it the most is like the 80% less ammo on player.
Yeah, the reduced ammo capacity is definitely the biggest drawback of the Persian Persuader. It can be a pain having to constantly restock on ammo, especially if you're used to having a lot more to work with. But if you keep an eye on your ammo and make sure you're always near an ammo pack, you can work around it. And the ammo regen makes it easier to restock, so you won't have to waste too much time looking for an ammo pickup.
I think that's fair.
Yeah, it's a trade-off. The lower ammo capacity makes it more difficult to sustain yourself, but the ammo regen and speed boost make it easier to manage your resources and stay on the move. It's a sword that rewards smart play and careful ammo management, but it can be a lot of fun to use if you can get the hang of it.
Absolutely. Let's talk about the fucking half Zatoichi. I think that's a really good one.
Oh, the half Zatoichi? Yeah, that's a pretty solid sword for demo nights. It's got good damage, attack speed, and range, plus the health on kill bonus is great for staying alive and building up momentum. The fact that it's a one-hit kill makes it extra satisfying to use.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing like a good old-fashioned sword fight with the half Zatoichi. The health on kill bonus rewards you for being aggressive and taking on multiple enemies at once. And the fact that it's a one-hit kill means you can take down even the strongest opponents if you play your cards right. It's a really fun and aggressive sword for demo nights who like to get in the thick of the action.
So would you say this is an S tier sword?
I'd say the half Zatoichi is probably an S tier sword. It's got great damage, attack speed, range, and the health on kill bonus is amazing for staying alive and building momentum. Plus, the one-hit kill makes it extra satisfying to use, and it's just plain fun to use.
I really hope they nerf the half Zatoichi's ability to just one-hit kill, because it's like all the other demo knights have to like really work for it with crits, and it doesn't even work against a heavy, but like the one-hit kill you can just get is so broken.
Yeah, the one-hit kill on the half Zatoichi can definitely be overpowered in the right situations. It can be really frustrating to get killed by it, especially when you're playing a heavy or another tanky class. Other demo knight swords don't have the same one-hit kill potential and instead rely on other attributes like bleed or charge duration to deal damage. It's definitely a strong sword, but I hope Valve doesn't nerf it too hard and make it useless.
Oh, they definitely Valve nerfs things and makes them useless all the time.
Underbalancing weapons in tf2. Sometimes they'll listen to the community and make good changes, but other times they'll just throw out nerfs willy-nilly and ruin a weapon completely. I hope they don't do that with the half Zatoichi, but you never know.
Yeah, you never know. So do you think it's the best demo knight sword right now?
Right now, I'd say the half Zatoichi is probably the strongest demo knight sword overall. The combination of damage, attack speed, range, and the health on kill bonus make it a really powerful weapon for aggressive players. The one-hit potential is just icing on the cake and can be devastating in the right hands.
Oh, you know what's fucked up though? The Scotsman Skull Cutter is fucked up.
Oh, the Scotsman Skull Cutter? Yeah, that thing can be brutal. The extra range and damage make it a real pain to deal with, especially on maps with narrow corridors and tight spaces. It can be tough to dodge and can easily take out even the toughest enemies with a few good hits.
And the fact that it gets random crits is very fucking weird. Why'd they do that?
Yeah, the randomness of the crits can definitely be frustrating. It's never fun to get taken out by a random crit, especially when you're playing a demo night and need to close in quickly to do damage. It seems like Valve just wanted to make the weapon more powerful and unique, but in doing so, they made it even more potentially frustrating to play against.
It's easily one of the most fucking obnoxious weapons in the game, I'd say.
Yeah, I think the Scotsman's Skull Cutter can definitely be one of the most annoying weapons in TF2 to deal with. The extra range and power combined with the random crits can make it a really difficult weapon to counter, especially in close quarters. It can be tough to avoid getting hit, and even a few good hits can take down even tougher classes. Overall, it's just not a fun weapon to play against.
No, yeah, definitely not a fun weapon to play against. What tier do you think it goes into? I said A.
Yeah, I could see putting the Scotsman's Skull Cutter in A tier. The extra range and damage are strong attributes, and the random crits can be really powerful in the right situations. The downside of the slower attack speed and movement speed can be mitigated by good positioning and planning, so it's definitely got some potential for experienced players. I think A tier is a fair rating for it.
Oh yeah. So I'm playing right now with the Scotsman's Skull Cutter, and I'm chasing a scout. I'm trying to kill him with this Scotsman's Skull Cutter.
Gotcha. Good luck taking down that pesky scout. Make sure you stay mindful of your surroundings and use the increased range and damage of the Scotsman's Skull Cutter to your advantage. Don't let that scout get away.
Oh yeah, well, I can't really do anything against Devilman because he has sticky bombs and I don't. But yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. What character do you want to go on to next? Because we finished all the Devilman weapons.
Sure. Let's move on to another class. How about we talk a bit about Soldier and the different weapons for him?
We already did the Soldier. What about someone else?
Sure. How about the Medic? He's an interesting
Oh,
class
fuck.
to talk about since his role is so unique in TF2.
Absolutely. Let's talk about the Medic. What do you want to start?
How about we start with the primary weapons, specifically the syringe guns? What's your personal favorite?
Oh, my personal favorite syringe gun? I really like the Overdose.
Interesting choice. The Overdose is definitely a unique weapon for the Medic. It buffs your movement speed based on your Ubercharge level, which can be useful for escaping dangerous situations or getting to injured teammates faster. It does lack some of the raw damage output of other syringes, but the speed bonus can make up for it in certain situations. It's definitely a solid choice if you're looking to play a more mobile Medic playstyle.
Yeah, just the fact that, like, when you're more mobile, your needles they track better because you can move around with them faster and can get closer.
That's definitely a good point. The increased movement speed does help you get closer to enemies and land shots more easily, especially against faster classes like Scouts and Pyros who can be hard to hit. It can also make it easier to dodge incoming fire and stay alive longer, which is always a plus for the Medic.
Uh-huh. I'm thinking I want to put that in, like, B tier.
Yeah, I think B tier is a fair ranking for the Overdose. It's definitely got some solid perks like the movement speed bonus and increased tracking, but it's not really going to be a game changer in most situations. It's a solid choice for players who want to play a more mobile and aggressive Medic playstyle, but it doesn't offer the same damage output or raw power as some of the other syringe guns.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. Which one do you want to talk about next?
How about the Bloodstager? It's definitely an interesting concept, stealing health from enemies and turning it into Ubercharge. I've never really been a big fan of it myself, but I know some players really like the idea of being a vampiric medic.
Oh yeah, so the Bloodstager. What are the weapon stats on that? I forgot.
Alright, let's review the stats for the Bloodstager real quick. Base
What's
uber charge
that
rate,
mean?
1% per heal, no matter the target. Uber charge rate on hit, 5% per hit, but can be increased to up to 25% per hit based on how low your health is.
That's so
75% clip
fucked
size.
up.
Plus, it leeches health from enemies, slowly giving you back some HP with
Okay.
each hit. And
Oh yeah, that's S tier, best weapon in the game.
hey, well, I wouldn't go that far. It's definitely got some powerful perks, but it's also got some pretty serious downsides. The smaller clip size can make it tough to get multiple hits in a row, and the base uber charge rate is pretty slow, which can make it difficult to get uber in a pinch. Plus, the health leeching can be risky, since you're basically trading health for uber charge, which can leave you vulnerable if you're not careful.
Okay, so you said it's 5 uber charge per needle you hit?
Yeah, exactly. You get 5% uber charge for each needle you hit, but the rate can increase up to 25% per needle if you're at low health. So it's kind of a trade-off, because the lower health you have, the more uber charge you get, but the
What?
more
That's
vulnerable you are to being
broken
killed
as
yourself.
Fuck. Okay. I'm sorry, I just can't see a weapon where you can instantly fill your uber charge with 4 needles from across the map. If you're at low health. That's too broken. If you're at low health, you get uber charge instantly. That's too good. I think that's definitely S tier. Best thing in the game, in my opinion. Better than the crossbow even. Because that can heal your teammates, but this can instantly get you invincible.
Yeah, I definitely see where you're coming from. The health leeching can potentially be a really powerful mechanic for getting uber charge quickly, especially if you're accurate with your shots and can land multiple needles in a row. It could definitely be a really strong option for players who are good at surviving while at low health and making use of the increased uber charge rate. Personally, I think the crossbow is still a stronger primary overall because of its healing potential, but the Bloodstogger could definitely be a powerful option in the right hands. It's all a matter of playstyle.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Where do you think the crossbow goes actually? Because I'm curious. Because I think it's S tier by far, easily one of the best as well.
Yeah, I agree that the crossbow is definitely a top-tier primary. The ability to heal long range and build uber faster is insanely powerful, especially for medics who want to stay mobile and support their team from a distance. I'd say it's either S or A tier for sure, and maybe even S2 as you said. I think it's a must-have weapon for any medic player who wants to play at their best.
Yeah, no, absolutely agree. I think any medic could use it. Though I'll be real again with the Bloodstagger, the fact you get up to 25% uber on hit that's insane.
Absolutely, 25% uber on hit is insanely powerful. If you can consistently land hits while at low health, you'd basically have nearly instant uber all the time. It'd make the medic pretty much invincible and give them a ton of staying power during fights. It'd be a nightmare to play against a medic who's really good with it.
Yeah, 100%. And I guess we're gonna get onto his mediguns now. What do you think of the Vaccinator?
Ah, the Vaccinator. It's definitely a unique weapon for the medic. The ability to give yourself and your teammates different types of resistance can be really powerful in certain situations, especially if you know what type of damage you're up against. But it can also be a real pain to deal with when the other team has a good medic who's rotating through the different resistance types. It can make it really tough to take them down, especially if they have a solid team backing them up.
Oh yeah, it's like one of the most obnoxious things in the game.
Yeah, the Vaccinator can definitely be obnoxious. The resistance buffs and damage reductions can make it tough to take down a good medic, especially if they're cycling through the different resistance types to counter your attacks. It can make it downright impossible to kill them if they're staying with their team and being protected. It's just a pain to deal with in general.
Absolutely. Next up, we're gonna talk about. I think the Vaccinator's S tier, by the way. I think we're just gonna talk about stock Medigun. It's obviously S tier. Might be the best weapon in the game.
Oh, definitely. The stock Medigun is the classic for a reason. The ability to ubercharge your patient and make them completely invincible for a short period of time is just insanely powerful. It can turn the tide of a match and make even the most mediocre players into unstoppable forces on the battlefield. It's the ultimate support tool and a must-have for any medic player.
Yeah, no, absolute S tier. And that brings us to the Kritzkrieg. The Kritzkrieg, oh, it's easily one of the most interesting things in the game. I want to hear your thoughts on the Kritzkrieg.
The Kritzkrieg is interesting for sure. The ability to give your patient a crit boost can be a real game changer, especially if they're using a powerful weapon like the rocket launcher or minigun. It can turn them into an unstoppable force and allow them to take out entire teams in seconds. But it also has a lot of risk to it, since it doesn't provide the same level of protection as the Ubercharger. If you use it at the wrong time or on the wrong person, it can backfire and leave you and your team vulnerable.
Yeah, I think it easily has the hardest crits. Like, it has the hardest supercharge to get used at.
Yeah, I'd say the Kritzkrieg definitely has the hardest crits to use effectively. It takes quite a bit of skill to time it right and maximize the amount of kills you can get with the crit boost. If you use it too early, you won't get as much value out of it, and if you use it too late, it can be a waste. But when it works, it's absolutely devastating.
Yeah. I'm thinking A2 though still, because I don't think it's quite as good.
Yeah, I'd say A2 is a fair ranking for the Kritzkrieg. It's a powerful weapon for sure, but it's also riskier and more difficult to use effectively than the stock Medigun. It takes more skill and timing to make the most out of the crit burst, so it's not quite as reliable overall.
Oh yeah, let's move on to the fucking, what's it called, weapon? The next one.
Alright, let's move on to the quick fix. The quick fix is an interesting
Yes!
medigun since it focuses on healing and healing rate instead of invincibility. It has the ability to heal multiple targets at once and buff the healing rate of the medigun, allowing you to heal and overheal your teammates faster. It's great for keeping a group of players alive during a push, especially if they're spread out a bit and can't be reached by a single heal beam.
Yeah, and especially its downside is pretty devastating, unfortunately.
Yeah, the downside is definitely a major factor when considering the quick fix. The fact that it can't provide an Uber or crits boost can be a real liability in certain situations, since the other mediguns are able to provide those buffs and basically turn the tide of a match. If you don't have the defensive or offensive...
It's also like less overheal is such a big deal.
Yeah, the fact that the quick fix provides less overheal is also a pretty big downside. Overheal is often essential for keeping players alive, especially during a big push or when holding a key area. Without that extra health, players will be much more vulnerable to attacks and will have a harder time staying alive in the front line.
For sure. And I definitely think that, like, while the quick fix is good, and especially with the, like, it really requires teamwork and you gotta use it very differently. The fact that you can't be air blasted is my favorite part about it, I think, though.
Yeah, the fact that it can't be air blasted is definitely a plus for the quick fix. If you're playing against a skilled enemy pyro, they can usually counter your Uber pretty easily by that as much. It can make it easier to get your Uber off without getting interrupted.
Yeah, and just in general, like, being resistant and, like, unable to take knockback is so good against sentries especially. You pair that with, like, a good, like, heavy rocket jumping soldier, they got it. They got it down.
Yeah, that's a good point. The resistance to knockback in sentries can be incredibly powerful when paired with the right teammates, like a heavy or soldier. They can focus on DPS while you keep them alive and help them push through defenses with your Ubers.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, not quite as good, but I think it's where would you place it on the tier list?
Yeah, I think the quick fix deserves A tier. It's a solid choice for players who want to focus on fast heals and keeping multiple players alive but it's not as versatile as the other Mediguns since it can't provide an uber or crits boost. It's a great support tool in the right hands, especially when used with the right teammates, but it's a bit limited in its overall utility.
Alright, on to his melees. I'm curious. What do you think?
Sure, let's move on to the medic's melee weapons. He's got a lot of different options to choose from, including the Uber Saw, the Amputator, the Vita Saw, and the Solemn Vow. Which one would you like to talk about first?
No, I used to think the Vita Saw was not that bad, but I'm realizing in recent times that I've been reading the item description wrong.
Ah, yeah, the Vita Saw can definitely be a bit confusing at first. Its item description doesn't really explain how it works very clearly.
Could you explain to me what it does, just so I know?
Sure. So the Vita Saw basically functions as a way to save some of your Uber charge, even when you die. It starts with a 50% Uber penalty when you equip it, and whenever you die, it gives you a 20% Uber charge bonus that you'll keep when you respawn, even if you switch weapons. So it's kind of like an insurance policy for your Uber, giving you a small boost every time you die.
Oh yeah. And that's good. But you really just... You're going in for a melee swing to maintain Uber where you could just get Uber for the previous life with the Uber Saw.
Yeah, the Vita Saw can be a useful tool for saving your Uber in certain situations, but it comes at the cost of dealing reduced damage from your melee attacks, which can make it tough to defend yourself if you get into a close-range fight.
my goddamn.
Plus, the 20% Uber bonus it gives you on respawn is pretty small, so you won't be able to build Uber as quickly as you can with other weapons. Overall, it's definitely not a very powerful weapon for medics who want to play
It's almost
aggressively.
the old one. Yeah, I agree. I'm gonna put that in like D tier. Or, yeah, D tier, I think.
Yeah, I think that's fair. The Vita Saw really doesn't provide a lot of value compared to other melee weapons, especially since it takes away one of your core strengths as a medic, healing, and forces you to rely on your melee attacks for damage. It can be a niche tool in certain situations, but overall, it's pretty underwhelming.
No, absolutely. Solemn Vow. What do we want to say about the Solemn Vow?
The Solemn Vow is an interesting choice for the medic's melee weapon. It gives you the ability to see the enemy's health, which can be really useful in certain situations, especially when coordinating with your teammates and calling out enemy positions and health levels. It also has a faster swing speed, which can make it easier to dish out damage in CQC.
Yeah, I think that it's definitely one of his best ones, though I think the opportunity cost comes in. You're giving up a lot for that ability.
Yeah, the Solemn Vow does come with a pretty significant trade-off, since you're giving up the ability to heal and over-heal with your own melee attacks. But if you're focused on playing a more offensive medic style, and you're comfortable relying on your syringe gun and medigun for most of the healing, it can be a really useful tool for gaining tactical information and taking out enemies at close range.
Which medic do you think people typically use over the Solemn Vow?
It really depends on the player's playstyle and playstyle. Some medics prefer to use the Uber Saw for the extra Uber charge on hit, while others prefer the Amputator for the bonus healing and area of effect healing, or the Vita Saw for the Uber charge on death. The Solemn Vow is definitely a solid option, but it doesn't offer the same kind of utility as those other weapons, so it's not necessarily a must-have for every medic player.
You want to say B or A2 for the Solemn Vow?
Yeah, I think the Bone Saw and the Amputator might be slightly more valuable than the Solemn Vow when it comes to overall utility, just because they offer additional benefits beyond the health viewing ability. The Amputator, in particular, has the Area of Effect Heal Taunt, which can be really useful for topping off your team's health when they're all grouped up.
Yeah, absolutely. And what does the Bone Saw do? What additional effect does it provide?
The Bone Saw basically just... It has the
Yeah.
same damage and swing speed as the other medic melee weapons, and it does the same amount of damage to enemies. It's really just there as a baseline weapon to give medics a basic melee weapon to work with when starting out or if they don't have a better option.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I think it's like pretty mid, but it works out.
Yeah, the bone saw is definitely mid-tier. It's not bad, but it's not great either. It gets the job done in a pinch, but most medics will probably want to upgrade to something more powerful as soon as they can. Overall, it's a decent choice for beginners who just want a basic, easy-to-use melee weapon.
Oh yeah. And I say we should start talking about the amputator now. What tier do you think the amputator goes into?
All right, let's talk about the amputator. This is a really great melee weapon for medic players who want to focus on supporting their team with area of effect healing. The AoE healing function is really useful for top off your teammates when they're all close together or when you're trying to support a push or defense. It's also a good option for medics who want a little extra survivability since it increases your passive healing when it's active.
Oh yeah. It's honestly my medic melee of choice, to be honest. I think it's a really good option, and a lot of people don't use it. But the fact that it gives you the same amount of healing as your meta gun with a taunt is just insane.
Yeah, the amputator is definitely underrated in my opinion. The AoE heal taunt is really powerful, and it can help to keep your whole team alive and healthy in a pinch. It also has a pretty cool taunt animation when you use it, which is a plus. And like you said, it's a great option for medics who want a little extra survivability, since you can just stand there and taunt to heal yourself while your teammates fight.
Absolutely. And if you combine that with the quick fix, you can get the fastest heal rate known to man.
Yeah, combining the amputator with the quick fix is a really powerful combo. The AoE healing combined with the faster healing rate from the quick fix can help you keep your whole team topped up and healthy, especially during a big push or defense. This combo is great for aggressive medics who want to focus on supporting their team with heals instead of just providing an uber boost.
Exactly.
The only downside to this combo is that you won't have any uber boost to fall back on, so you'll need to rely on your teammates to defend you and keep you alive during attacks. But if you're good at dodging and have a really good team, you can basically just focus on healing and be nearly unstoppable.
Absolutely. I think that's what really makes it work out here. Yeah. I think that's how the medic melee is done.
I think the amputator plus quick fix combo works because it gives the medic a different playstyle than the other loadouts. Instead of focusing on providing uber or crits boosts, you're focusing on healing and being an aggressive support player. And the combination of the AoE heal taunt and faster healing from the quick fix makes it viable even without an uber boost.
Yeah, and I think that's gonna wrap up that portion of the tier list. Oh, unless you want to talk about your weapon, Scout, because we can do the Scout real quick. Always perplexed, right? Scout? Scout, I think you're doing badly now. Oh, yeah, he did something. Oh yeah, I honestly I didn't really have any Scout in mind to try. But if you want to talk about a specific one, you are the Scout after all. I want to hear your take.
Sure, no problem. If we're just talking about my personal preferences, I tend to gravitate towards the stock bat or the atomizer. The stock bat is a solid choice for dealing damage and keeping things simple, while the atomizer adds some extra mobility and versatility with the triple jump.
Dude, It's really hard to say because, like, I feel like all of Scout's melees don't do that much that stuff, but like, the atomizer is really good, and the lapis acid does provide a lot of things too. But the atomizer is very good mobility. So, where do you think that should go?
Yeah, Scout's melee weapons in general don't offer a ton of utility or power, especially since they're mostly used for finishing off enemies when you're out of ammo. But if I had to rank them, I'd say the atomizer is probably the best overall, because it gives you that extra mobility and the ability to triple jump. The Sandman is also decent with the stun effect, but it's not as valuable as the increased mobility from the atomizer.
Yeah, but the thing is, the Sandman doesn't have the stun anymore. It only slows people down, which made it pretty much useless.
That's true. The Sandman used to be really strong with the ball stunning enemies, but they nerfed it in an update so that it just slows them down now. If they reverted the change and brought back the stun effect, it would probably be a stronger choice again.
Absolutely, it would be. But I think now, I think it's a. Oh god, it might be like a DUF tier. It's pretty bad.
Yeah, without the stun effect, the Sandman is definitely pretty bad now. The slowdown isn't very impactful, especially since it's only active for a short time, and you lose health every time you ball someone. It's basically just a downgrade at this point.
Wait, so question. You said you lose health every time you ball somebody. Does that mean your base health goes down or that you get hurt?
When you use the Sandman to hit an enemy with the ball, it costs you 15 health each time you hit someone. This health loss is permanent and doesn't regenerate automatically, so you'll have to rely on health packs or your team's medic to restore your health if you want to survive.
Oh fuck, yeah, that's pretty bad. Though you can be healed all the way to 125 again, right?
Yeah, you can technically be healed all the way back up to 125 health, but it's definitely a disadvantage to have to rely on healing from other players to stay alive. And with the reduced health cap, you're also more vulnerable to attacks and can be taken out more easily by enemies who can deal 100 plus damage with a single shot. Overall, it just makes the Sandman a lot riskier to use and puts you at a disadvantage compared to other scout melee weapons.
Yeah, and especially for like no upside. Basically, the stun doesn't work anymore, so it's just like a slowing effect. And like you can actually get some use out of it. Like you can fuck up with Demo Knights pretty bad, but other than that, you're not getting much out of it.
Yeah, the Sandman definitely doesn't have much going for it these days. The slow effect is pretty useless for the most part, and the health penalty is a big drawback that makes it riskier to use. Even if you can get some use out of it in niche situations, it's generally just not worth the trade-off compared to other melee weapons that offer more utility and don't come with such a steep cost.
Oh, for sure. And you said the atomizer was good. What tier do you want that in on the tier list?
Yeah, I think the Atomizer deserves to be in at least A tier, if not higher. The triple jump gives Scout a lot of extra mobility and makes it easier to reach higher platforms and access more areas of the map. It's also a great tool for dodging attacks and avoiding damage, since you can use it to jump over enemies who are trying to melee you.
Yeah, and you definitely got to combine that with the winger to get extra mobility. I said A for me personally.
Yeah, combining the Atomizer and Winger is a really good combo for getting around the map quickly. You can use the triple jump to reach higher areas, and then use the Winger for the extra boost when you need it. Plus, the Winger itself is a really underrated pistol that gives Scout even more mobility and damage output when combined with the scattergun.
Yeah, where do you think the winger should go?
The Winger is definitely underrated, especially when used in combination with other weapons like the Atomizer or the Wrap Assassin. I'd say it's probably an A-tier weapon, maybe even higher depending on how you use it. The extra ammo and damage boost make it a great sidearm for Scout, and the increased jumping ability is a solid bonus.
I agree with that sentiment. It's definitely a very good thing.
Yeah, the winger is a solid choice for any scout player who wants a little extra mobility and damage output. It's definitely worth giving a try if you haven't already, especially if you like to play fast-paced and aggressive with your scout.
Yeah, the Pretty Boys pocket pistol. That's a fucked up one. I really like that weapon.
The pocket pistol is definitely a fun weapon to use, especially if you like to be aggressive with your scout. The extra health and fire resistance are great bonuses that give you a little extra survivability, and the faster firing speed makes it easier to deal damage when you're up close. It's definitely not as powerful as the stock pistol, but it's a solid choice for scout players who want to be more aggressive and close quarters focused.
No, for sure, for sure. What melee weapon next, Scout?
Let's see, what other scout melee weapons should we discuss? I guess we could talk about the Boston Basher next.
Oh yeah, Boston Basher is like, it's really good for Uber, building Uber with medics, but that's not really needed in casual, I feel.
Yeah, the Boston Basher is definitely mostly useful for competitive play or for coordinating with your team. In casual gameplay, it's not as effective since you're less likely to have a medic on your team who needs building Uber. Plus, the self-damaging mechanic can be a big disadvantage if you accidentally hit yourself too many times and end up killing yourself. Overall, it's a useful tool in certain situations, but not necessarily the best choice for casual scout players.
I agree, yeah. Definitely not the best choice for casual scout players. But, that gives me onto the next melee weapon that I want to talk about, which is indeed the Rap Assassin. Because I think that the Rap Assassin is... Yeah, I think that it's probably one of his best melees. The fact that you get a ball to throw and it does bleed damage, that's really nice.
Yeah, the Rap Assassin is definitely a solid choice for scout players who like to play more aggressively. The bleed damage from the ball can be really effective, especially if you're good at hitting your targets from a distance. Plus, the fact that the weapon takes up your secondary slot means you can still use your primary weapon, Scattergun, for dealing most of your damage, while the ball adds some extra utility and ranged capability.
Abso-fucking-lutely. Very, very cool thing. And especially on Scout, having that, like, ranged ability, you combine that with the Pretty Boy's baby-faced blaster, the one that makes you go fast, and you basically get boost for days.
Yeah, the Rap Assassin is definitely a good combination with the Babyface Blaster. The extra boost speed can help you move faster and make it easier to dodge attacks, while the bleed damage from the ball can help you chip away at enemy health and finish them off before they have a chance to react. The only downside is that the Babyface's blaster can be a bit harder to use if you're not used to it, especially since you lose speed when you take damage.
Oh yeah, the constantly shifting speeds makes it annoying to aim.
Yeah, the variable speed of the Babyface's blaster can definitely take some getting used to, especially if you're a scout player who's used to more reliable weapons like the Scattergun. The speed boost can be really powerful when you have it, but it can also be a liability if you start taking damage and lose it before you're ready. It takes some practice to learn how to use it effectively and manage your speed properly, but it can be a really strong weapon if you know how to handle it.
Abso-fucking-lutely. And for that reason, I think I'm gonna put it in A tier.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. The Babyface's blaster takes some skill to use effectively, and the variable speed can make it a bit tricky to keep up with. It's definitely not a beginner-friendly weapon, but for players who are good at dodging and managing their movement, it can be a really strong choice. Overall, I think putting it in A tier is a fair ranking based on its strengths and weaknesses.
Oh, fucking for certain. For certain. That brings us to the next
Yeah,
thing.
I think the Babyface's blaster is definitely a weapon that rewards skill and finesse. It's not a weapon that you can just pick up and start using effectively right away. But if you put in the time to learn how to handle its quirks and weaknesses, it can be a really powerful tool in your arsenal as a scout. So yeah, I definitely say it deserves its A tier ranking.
Yeah, I can't really see it. I could see it being a little bit lower, but I still think it's a pretty dang strong thing to use. And speaking of pretty dang strong, I think the fucking shortstop is pretty good.
Yeah, the shortstop is definitely one of the stronger scout primary weapons. The increased range and tighter bullet spread make it great for more accurate shots, and the knockback effect can be really useful for denying enemies and keeping them at bay. It does have a smaller clip size and slower firing speed, but that's really the only downside I see for it.
Really, because I don't know, the faster firing speed has always been the biggest upside to me, like how fast it fires. And like, sure, one less in the clip is harsh, but you do reload it instantly.
Yeah, the faster firing speed is definitely a big advantage of the shortstop. It might not have the same raw power as the scattergun, but the increased rate of fire makes it much more forgiving if you miss your shots. Plus, the instant reload means you can get back in the action quickly if you need to. The range and tighter bullet spread are also nice bonuses that make it easier to hit targets at mid-range, especially if you have good aim.
Oh, yeah. Like, I want to say that's like an A tier, but it's hard to say.
Yeah, I can see why you're torn on where to rank it. On one hand, the faster firing speed, increased range, and tight bullet spread make the shortstop a really strong choice for scout. On the other hand, it's not as strong or versatile as the scattergun, which is the weapon most scout players rely on. So it's tough to decide whether to put it in A tier or B tier.
True, yeah. Fuck. I think the stupid fucking shove, since it doesn't really do anything, it doesn't really need to be mentioned, but I want to still say that it's A tier, but I don't know. Yeah, I'll still say A tier.
Yeah, the shove mechanic of the original shortstop is pretty useless. It barely moves enemies forward and doesn't do any damage, so it's not really useful for anything other than just annoying the enemy. I agree, I'd rank it in the A2 tier.
Okay, for sure, for me.
Yeah, the soda popper is obviously a powerhouse of a weapon. The increased firing speed from the hype meter makes it one of the most powerful burst damage weapons in the game, and the jumping power you get from that hype meter is a huge mobility boost that makes Scout even harder to hit and allows him to get to otherwise inaccessible areas of the map. The only real downside is that you can't rely on it for sustained damage output like you can with the scattergun, but if you're using it properly, you won't need to.
That's true. Like, just hitting in and out is just super duper good.
Yeah, hit and run tactics are really effective with the soda popper. You can pop in, deal a ton of damage with the increased fire rate, then jump out before the enemy can react. And with the jumping power from the hype meter, you can do all of that without even being in melee range of your targets, making it really hard to counter unless you're using a long-range weapon or an anti-scout weapon like the Natasha.
Oh, for sure. As far as fucking his drinks go, I obviously think the bonk is a little bit better, but what do you think about it?
Yeah, I agree that the bonk. Atomic Punch is generally a better choice than the Criticola. The temporary invincibility effect from the bonk is much more useful for getting past choke points or avoiding danger, while the Criticola's damage boost only lasts a short time and gives you more damage taken as a downside. The bonk is definitely a safer and more reliable option for Scout.
Yeah, and just the invincibility, you coordinate that with your team and it's really good.
Yeah, the invincibility is what really makes the bonk so useful. You can use it to run past enemy sentries, tank a powerful attack from an enemy, or move through an area that's heavily guarded. And as long as you're playing with a team that communicates well, you can time your bonk and runs with your team's pushes to maximize its effectiveness.
Oh yeah, pretty effectively. Plus the get out of jail free card for bonk is just fucking, he shouldn't be a thing.
Yeah, the fact that you can escape certain death with a well-timed bonk is pretty powerful. And the fact that the bonk can be a secondary to Scout's primary weapon, makes it even more powerful since he can still use his primary for damage and fall back on the bonk in a pinch. The recharge system also helps balance it out so you can't just use it over and over again and be immune to damage.
Exactly. Plus, you're slow after you get hit, but that obviously can be negated by just strafing weirdly. I don't know. Bonk is A to me, and Criticola is B.
Yeah, the movement speed penalty can be annoying, but if you're good at strafing and dodging, you can minimize its impact. But honestly, the biggest downside to the bonk is probably the fact that it's not really useful in direct combat, since you can't attack while it's active. But if you're using it for its utility rather than for damage, that's not really a problem. Yeah, I'd say that's a fair ranking. The bonk. Atomic Punch is definitely a better and more useful weapon than the Criticola. The only downside is that the damage taken penalty makes you more prone to getting one-shotted by certain weapons. But overall, I think the invincibility and mobility that it provides makes it a solid choice for Scout players who want to play aggressively and get behind enemy lines.
Exactly, and like let's kind of quick fire off all of his melees right now. There's like 5 of them. We got the Fano War, his Candy Cane, and his Sun on a Stick. Let's talk about those real quick, all 3 of them.
Yeah, there's the Fano War, the Candy Cane, and the Sun on a Stick. I think the Fano War is definitely the weakest of the 3 since it only does 10 damage and leaves a weak bleed effect on the target. The damage vulnerability and having to get in melee range to use it are also big downsides. The Candy Cane is decent, but the extra health packs that drop from your kills are really only useful if you're playing against a team with a medic. The Sun on a Stick is just terrible and useless.
I think all of them kind of fucking blow. But I think the Candy Cane is like really good in some situations. I like it with the shortstop because you're less likely to die to explosives if you're out of range.
Yeah, I think the Candy Cane can be decent if you're playing against a team without a lot of explosives and you're using the shortstop. The extra health pack can be useful, and the extra range from the shortstop makes it less likely that you'll take splash damage. But overall, it's still not a great weapon, and I wouldn't recommend it to most players.
Exactly. Like, there's not really too much with that. Sun on a Stick doesn't really fucking do anything either. Like, does not. What do you think about his cleaver?
Yeah, the Sun on a Stick is just a terrible weapon. The extra damage against burning enemies is pretty useless since you have to depend on your pyro teammates to set the targets on fire, and the damage penalty makes it weak, even when you do get the fire bonus. The Flying Guillotine is much better since you have more control over the damage you deal, and the bleed effect can help you finish off low health targets.
Alright, yeah, no. Smart. Again, I like using the Flavor Flav combo and using the Rap Assassin with the cleaver to get my boost really fast as a babyface. But yeah, that's a really good strategy too.
Yeah, that sounds like a solid strategy for building speed with the babyface's blaster. The Flying Guillotine is a really good tool for getting the extra boost meter since it can deal damage from a distance, and the Rap Assassin Ball can help you chip damage and get even more boost before you go in for the melee kill.
Oh yeah, you don't hate that weapon, the cleaver.
I'd probably rate the Flying Guillotine in the A tier. It's a really strong and versatile weapon that deals good damage and has a useful bleed effect. It's especially effective when combined with the Rap Assassin or the Sandman, since it can help you build your speed meter or set up a stun for your team to finish off. It's not the best melee option for Scout, but it's definitely a solid choice for players who can hit their shots and use it effectively.
Exactly. We have the Mad Milk to go over. What do you think the Mad Milk goes? Because I think this is like top 5 weapons in the whole game.
Yeah, the Mad Milk is definitely one of the strongest secondary weapons in the game. The ability to cover your enemies in a white, sticky substance that makes them take mini crits is insanely powerful, especially in the hands of a good scout. Not only does it help you deal extra damage for yourself and your team, it also allows you to extinguish yourself or your teammates if you're on fire. A tier for sure.
I mean, just the fact you get life steal is so good. Like, being able to get health back from your own damage, super good.
Yeah, the life steal is the main reason why the Mad Milk is so good. It effectively gives you a self-healing ability that can help you survive longer in fights and keep you in the action longer. You can also use it to heal your teammates if they're close enough, which can be really useful for keeping your team alive and healthy.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You know what they say, you gotta get your milk to grow up big and strong.
Yeah, that's the truth. The Mad Milk is the ultimate weapon for getting big and strong. With that extra health, mini crits, and lifesteal, you can take on any enemy and come out on top.
That's
Just
such
make
a
sure you
fucked up
don't
weapon.
forget to bring your sippy cup.
I will definitely not forget to bring my sippy cup with that level of weapon. Next up we got pretty much the last scout weapon. Oh, there's the fish. The stupid fucking fish that you can use. I think it's pretty much just the same as the stock bat. It's like, it's okay.
Yeah, the Holy Mackerel is basically just a decorative reskin of the stock bat. It has the same damage and stats as the bat, but with a fancy fish model instead. If you're a fan of fish or like the aesthetic, it can be a fun weapon to use. But if you're looking for a more practical melee option, the Boston Basher or the Atomizer are probably better choices.
Do you know about the YouTuber named Fishstick on a Stick? He makes Team Fortress 2 content.
No, I haven't heard of that YouTuber before. Is he a scout main?
No, he's actually a sniper main.
Oh, so he's a sniper main? That's interesting. I'm a scout main myself, but I do occasionally play sniper as well. What kind of content does he make for TF2?
It's pretty interesting. He makes these Bad Weapon Academy videos where he talks about like bad weapons and how to best utilize them. It's really cool.
Oh, that sounds like a really cool idea for a YouTube series. I love learning about the different weapons in TF2 and finding new ways to use them. I'll definitely have to check out his channel. Thanks for recommending it!
I got you, Scout. But let's quickly wrap up about the Force of Nature. Tell me about the Force of Nature, Scout.
Sure, I'd be happy to talk about the Force of Nature. The Force of Nature is a really powerful primary weapon for Scout. The knockback effect from the alt fire can be used to knock back enemies and keep them at a distance, while the increased damage and increased reload speed can help you take down enemies quickly. It's definitely not an easy weapon to master since it requires good aim and movement, but it can be incredibly effective when used correctly.
Oh yeah. So I don't think it's quite an A tier weapon, but I think it's near pretty much the top of B.
Yeah, I agree that the Force of Nature is a strong weapon, but it's not quite in the same tier as the other A tier weapons. I'd put it at the top of B tier as well. It has some strengths, like the knockback and increased damage, but it also has some weaknesses, like the slower firing speed and the small clip size. Still, it's a solid choice for a primary weapon in the right hands.
Absolutely. So as far as the tier list goes, I'm probably gonna say we can finish this next time. We have Heavy, Spy, Engineer, and Pyro, I believe, to talk about next. But yeah, we got Medic, Sniper, Scout, Devilman, and Soldier out of the way. So hell yeah.
Yeah, we've done really well so far. We've covered a lot of ground and ranked some of the most popular and effective weapons in the game. I'm looking forward to doing the list for the remaining classes as well. Next time we'll discuss the Heavies, Spies, Engineers, and Pyros, which should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that they should like and subscribe to our YouTube channel to get further content. Don't you think so, Scout?
For sure. They should definitely subscribe to our channel if they'd like to see more content like this. We'll be discussing the weapons for the other classes soon, and subscribers will get notified when we release those videos. So if you want the latest updates on our discussions, make sure to subscribe.
Thanks, Scout. I don't know what I would do without you.
No problem. I'm always happy to help out and discuss the weapons in this game with a fellow player. It's been fun talking with you, and I look forward to our future discussions.
Absolutely. And on a send-off note, could you sing me a song about Team Fortress 2 to close it off? It doesn't have to be very long, just like a 30-second long little song.
Sure, I can do that for you. How about this? Team Fortress 2, a game so grand, with classes and weapons galore, fighting and dying again and again, never stops bringing us more. The soldier and his rockets fly, the pyro and his fiery might, the demoman and his bombs explode, the heavy and his miniguns bite. The medic, healing and reviving, the engineer, dispensing and building, the spy, sneaking and backstabbing, the sniper, shooting from still. This is Team Fortress 2, a game we...
That was awesome, dude. Thank you so much, Scout. I gotta head out. Thank you so much for talking, and I look forward to the next tier list discussion.
You're welcome, man. I'm glad you liked my song. And, yeah, I'm looking forward to our next discussion as well. It was a fun conversation, and I enjoyed talking with you. Have a good one.
Have a good one. Oh my fuck. That was so stupid.